gentlemen, welcome to tonight's council meeting. Are you Stella?
Yes, hi.
Okay, good. Let me restart our council. This is our first meeting of 2020, and our tradition is that we start all of our meetings off with singing of O Canada. And tonight, Stella Trudeau is going to sing for us. So let me introduce you, Stella, properly.
Thank you.
Stella attends Laurier University in Waterloo. She's been studying music much of her life and is continuing her musical education at university. Having said that, she's been faced with some unique circumstances. Stella is blind and she has a guide dog. She's performed in several musical theater productions in her community and has always enjoyed the arts. Tonight, Stella is going to grace us with her rendition of the national anthem. So whenever you're ready.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. Car ton bras s'est porté les pays, il s'est porté la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée des plus brillants exploits. God keep a land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Yeah, Stella, that was fantastic. If I had to use one word, I'd use velvet. That sounded like velvet. So thank you on behalf of the city. We're really pleased. You did a great job. What a way to kick off the year 2020 with your beautiful voice and a great rendition of our national anthem. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you very much. What's that? Oh, yeah. Well, the meeting's going to go all downhill from there. That was the high point, so thanks for everyone for coming out. So your Golden Hawk, is that what you're saying, Mr. CAO? Our CAO went to Laurier. Yeah. But he doesn't sing anything like you, though. Yeah. Okay, councillors, we are looking for an adoption of the minutes from our December the 10th meeting. Moved by Councillor Pietrangelo, second by Councillor Strange. All those in favor? Okay, and that's approved. Thank you. Do we have any disclosures of a pecuniary interest? Councillor Ioannoni and then Lococo.
Check 423466 made out to myself.
Thank you. Councillor Lococo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a list which I have forwarded to the clerk. Check 433501 for $384.02 payable to myself for reimbursement of expenses. Check 432467 November 1st of 2019, $425 payable to myself for reimbursement of expenses. 432581 November 6, 2019 for $792.87 reimbursement of expenses for the conference in Austin, and check 432333 October 31st, 2019 for $115.34. The next checks are boards that I sit on as a resident. Niagara Falls Art Gallery 433317 November 27th, 2019 for $2,333.33. Project Share 433341 November 27th, 2019 for $24,866.66, and Project Share 433547 December 4th, 2019 for $515.84. Thank you.
Whew. All right, thank you. Any other disclosures? Councillor Pietrangelo.
Thanks, Your Worship. Check 433111 made out to myself. It's a reimbursement for materials.
Okay. Any other disclosures? Okay, seeing none, thank you for that. We move on to the mayor's reports and announcements, and then we've got some presentations. So first of all, Happy New Year to everyone. I hope everyone had a restful holiday. New Year's Eve in Niagara Falls was a great success. We had performances by Bryan Adams, Walk Off The Earth, and Valerie Borghese right here from Niagara Falls. We had more than 60,000 attendees. It was, according to our Niagara Parks Police, it was the best attended New Year's Eve ever. The place was absolutely packed as far as the eye could see, all the way to the wall, of the retaining wall of the falls, and both ways up and down River Road. It was unbelievable. The conditions were perfect. It was just below zero, so the ground was hard, but it wasn't raining and it wasn't too cold, so it was absolutely perfect. So great night. We had 2 fireworks shows. It was nationally televised on CBC from 11:30 to 12:05, and we won the night. We had more viewers than any other show in the country, including Ryan Seacrest's New Year's Eve show out of the US. So thank you to all that participated, specifically to Serge Felicetti and our team at the Niagara Parks Commission, David Adams and his group, for doing such an incredible job. So thank you to all. Obituaries, first off, Eric Spink, retired city employee in Municipal Works Department. Alex Louie, the son of Kat Louie of our Finance Department. I'm sure we've all read about Alex's journey. He's in a much better place now, and our community sends our love to his family. Our OPG Winter Festival of Lights have now come to a close as of Sunday. Some of the highlights people have been raving about are the interactive displays, the Instagrammable displays, the shareable lighting, and that's the type of festival. I'd like to thank Councillor Pietrangelo for representing the city at the 5th Annual New Year's Eve Levy at the Niagara Falls Armory, and notification to those watching at home, the next council meeting will be January the 28th. So now we go to presentations, and I would now like to call up Sherman Zavitz, the city's official historian, to join me out front here. There's a little gateway there to your right. Welcome. Nice to see you, Sherman. And good to see your lovely wife with you as well.
Yes, Anne.
Anne is always with Sherman wherever he goes. She's always there supporting him. And I'm guessing you've probably learned as much about the history of Niagara Falls as anybody hanging around this guy. Do you ever get bored of it? Never. He's got one of those voices, right? I always say he could be one of those FM, easy listening stations. And I've been at conferences with him where he's just wooed the crowd into a state. And it reminds me of, if you remember a long time ago, Casey Kasem used to always do the American Top 40 on Sunday nights, and he'd have a way of just delivering different songs and getting you right into the moment. So today we say goodbye. We say goodbye to our longtime official city historian, Sherman Zavitz. It's actually a historic moment in itself, as Sherman's been in this role since before 1995. We've been so fortunate to have Sherman in this role, acting as an ear for questions from residents, political officials, and history buffs of all kinds for more than the last 25 years. Sherman taught school for 35 years, mostly grades 4, 5, and 6 at several Niagara Falls schools. He's always been interested in Canadian history, and in particular, the history of the Niagara Falls and surrounding area. Sherman has always been interested in Canadian history. He's also been the official historian for the Niagara Parks Commission for many years. He's been actively involved in many heritage organizations for more than 40 years, holding various positions, including past president of the Lundy's Lane Historical Society and past chair of the City of Niagara Falls Board of Museums. Sherman served on both the local Architectural Conservation Authority Committee and on the board of the Canadian Canal Society. Sherman is an accomplished and popular local history tour guide and is frequently in demand as a speaker. And I know his events always sell out, so people know if you want to go along with Sherman, you got to get in early. He's also hosted countless local walking tours. He's appeared frequently on TV, films, radio, and presented a series of historical vignettes on the radio station CJRN. Being a local heritage expert, Sherman has written several illustrated books about Niagara Falls, and we have some of those signed books in City Hall that we give as gifts to visiting dignitaries. He also contributed to weekly local history columns called The Niagara Note for the Niagara Falls Review between 1991 and 2017. For more than 10 years, he's produced a photo feature known as Niagara Then and Now since 1994. According to Sherman, One of the highlights of his career has been chief editor of a book that came out in 2004 called Images of a Century, commemorating the city's 100th anniversary. Sherman's contributions to the city of Niagara Falls have been recognized both citywide and provincially, with volunteer service awards for his commitment to furthering our knowledge and appreciation of both this city and our region's fascinating history. Sherman will be thanked and officially recognized by the community at a public celebration at the Niagara Falls History Museum. It'll be the evening of March the 4th, that's another day, but the day we're having will be March the 4th, and that'll be at the museum, so I hope everyone will attend and join us. At that time, we're gonna look forward to presenting Sherman with the key to the city of Niagara Falls. So before anyone asks, how come you're not giving him the key, we are gonna be giving the key, but it'll be at that special event on the 4th of March. As well, I'm pleased to announce that we're now officially going to name the theater at the museum the Sherman Zavitz Theater. So please join me in congratulating Sherman and thanking him for all of his years as we present to him. Now, I know to a lot of you, this is just a simple cutting board, and I want to explain to you it's not. This is actually a charcuterie board. And you're saying, what's the difference? Well, I've been asking the same question since we started getting them. But apparently you display your cheese and your cold cuts and your olives and whatnot on this board. You don't just cut it. Because it's, as you can see, it's beautiful. Let me just tell you a little bit about the board that we're going to present to our official historian. He still is for a few more minutes. The board is handmade at our very own Heartland Forest in Niagara Falls. Many of you know that Heartland Forest is a special place for our community. It uses natural and outdoor resources to educate young people. And especially it provides a place where people with special needs can get engaged, participate, and hone their skills in certain areas. The Heartland Forest Woodworking Shop is one of those areas. So we're pleased to support that good work by providing this gift created at Heartland Forest to our official historian, Mr. Sherman Zavitz. How about a big hand, ladies and gentlemen? So, take your time. Something's not working. Your fingers. So, standing ovation. Mr. Zavitz, is there something you'd like to share with us? Maybe some words for all of your friends here in council chambers and everybody at home as well.
Yes, I would. Thank you for the opportunity. Your worship, members of council, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very, very much for these kind words and for this, of course. I appreciate it all very, very much. I'm going to say slightly blown away. I'm majorly blown away by all of this. And again, I'm very grateful for your words and for all of you for being here. I would certainly say that this day in my personal history will rank among the most memorable and most moving. It's a day I'll always remember with great pleasure. I appreciate this, as I say, certainly, and I appreciate too the privilege, and that's how I looked at it, actually operating as the official historian for this great city over a quarter of a century. It was a great, great privilege. It allowed me, having that position, allowed me to do something I greatly love to do, and that was to celebrate and promote this city's remarkably fascinating history. It was pure pleasure. So I appreciate the time I spent as city historian, appreciate your support, appreciate your kind words in this gift tonight. Thank you very much again, and I'll look forward to seeing some of you, I hope maybe many of you, on March the 4th at the museum. So thank you very, very much again.
I'd also like to add this charcuterie board. I sound more of a Renaissance man when I say that. It has special meaning. They are made there, as I mentioned, at Heartland Forest. They are paying homage to the environment and the Niagara landscape using local wood and locally sourced materials. As well, you'll notice the crest of Niagara Falls has been carved into the wood as a reminder of your fond days as our official historian. So ladies and gentlemen, a wonderful and incredible human being, a great representative of this city, and someone that I call friend, and I'm very proud to have had him represent us for all these years. So thank you. We really should have an award for Ann as well, but you'll be able to use the charcuterie board as well. Ann.
Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. How do you know she doesn't want her own? She might want her own, yeah. And we have one other presentation that we're going to use tonight. I'd like to call up Kevin Dahlman. You can join us up here.
What high school? Which high school did you go to?
I don't know if I can follow that. Good to see you too. So I've got a presentation for Kevin as well. So we're pleased to recognize Kevin Dahlman today on his robust and successful hockey career. Kevin recently retired from professional hockey. He played several seasons in the NHL for the Boston Bruins, the St. Louis Blues, and for the LA Kings. Eventually, he made the hard decision to leave the NHL and go over to the KHL in Russia. In his first season there, he beat all of the defensive records in the league. He also made the All-Star team in the league for the next several years. He was named captain of his team, the Astana Berries in Kazakhstan. After 10 years in the KHL, Kevin decided to retire and remains in the top 10 of all-time point leaders in the KHL. Kevin played locally here for the Niagara Falls Canucks back in 1996 through 1998, where they won the Sutherland Cup. And at this time, we'd like to present Kevin with a framed Niagara Falls print photographed by Niagara's own Paul Augustino. And Kevin, your community is so proud of you. We wish you all the best in your retirement from professional hockey. We know he's still a young man. He's got a lot of gas in the tank. And we want to say on behalf of the city, thank you for representing us so well around the world. Maybe you'd like to say a few words.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would like to thank you, Mayor, and my good friend Mike Strange. I just like to thank everybody for coming here, and my parents in the crowd, my family. It's a huge honor, and for me traveling for so long, and to always come home here to the Falls is a huge honor. It's like all our family is here. My kids every year after the season, let's go home. We need to get back to the family, and so we just consider Niagara Falls our family, and we like to be around family. It's great. It's a great honor to be recognized, and to always come back here to the Falls.
Did you learn to speak any Russian?
I did.
Yeah?
Yes, and so did the kids.
Okay, that's good. That's very good. Councillor Strange?
Yeah, I just want to congratulate Kevin on a great career, and if a lot of you don't know his past, he's a Niagara Falls born, played on ball hockey on 4th Avenue when he was a kid, never forgot where he was from, won the Sutherland Cup for the Canucks, and played several years in NHL, and had the tough decision whether to stay there or to go to the KHL, and a lot of us probably were a little skeptical, say, why are you going over to KHL? Well, in the first year he broke all Fennesau's records, and he's still the top defenseman for points over there. So it's crazy, and he's never forgot where he's come from. So, and he's back here living in Niagara Falls. So we're just happy to have you. We're hoping that you could, maybe give us a hand at the Montreal Canadiens the last couple of years of NHL. But officially, this is it. Done. 38 years old. He's still coming.
I went to Canada with Montreal.
Well, he's a Habs fan too. So.
You're a Habs fan?
No.
Same thing for Boston. Yeah. So on behalf of the city, we want to say thank you so much. We're very proud of you. Thank you to your family for supporting you all these years, and we're glad that you've come back to your home.
Yeah.
And we got a place for you and your family.
Beautiful.
Awesome.
I appreciate
Thanks
it.
very much. Okay, next up, we've got Dr. Stafford Dobbin from Heart Niagara. Is Dr. Stafford Dobbin here? Oh, there we are. Stafford. Oh, no, you can come right to the microphone. You can go right up to the microphone there. Is the mic on? Can Councillor Campbell, can you tell if it's on?
Oh, I'm singing or something, like him.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Welcome.
Your Worship, councillors, boys and girls, how do I work this bloody thing? I had to throw a
We
few
can do it from
slides
here. If you like, we can do it from here if you like, whatever's easier.
Yeah, that would be good, yeah.
If you're
I can-
comfortable, you can use the mouse or the keyboard. otherwise-
Well, get us through it quicker. So if I could just lead off by going global, and I probably should ask you what do you think is the leading cause of death in the world today? You might think of a lot of things, but funnily enough, it is heart and stroke. 15 million people worldwide, and this is a condition that is totally preventable. It costs the Canadian government or all of us, $20 billion a year. And it is caused by hardening of the arteries, as most of you probably know, but you maybe not know that the people at risk for it, it starts before the age of 10. Everyone agrees that some kids at risk at that early age will have irreversible disease by 25, men and women at 35. And it is recognizable, everybody else agrees, that it clusters in some families and not in others. And those families can be identified by certain risk factors: family history, smoking, cholesterol. I think you know most of the score. But the fact is that there is only one organization in the world that goes into the only place where you can find that family to identify them as being at risk. There is only one time when the whole population is available, and that is when they have a child at school. There is Niagara Peninsula, and Heart Niagara run this program, is the only place where school children are identified as being at risk, because then you get the parents. This is what is called cascade screening. So you can get a child who's got a very high cholesterol, you know that one of the parents have as well. So what am I saying? Yes, arteriosclerosis starts in childhood. Just go back 1 second there. Back one. Yeah. Oh, it doesn't matter. It just said that the school is the principal place that we have to, and you must think about this. I mean, there are so many things that we think we should be doing at school or not doing at school, but the fact is that's the only time when everybody is available to learn whether they might be at risk for this condition or not. So, go on, thank you. So this organization, did you have a Heart Niagara one in there somewhere? Anyway, not to worry. So Heart Niagara, most of you don't know who the heck we are. We did actually start all the CPR teaching in Niagara. We worked, did all the advanced life support, led to the paramedics, ran the cardiac rehab program for 30 years. The Buffalo Niagara Falls Marathon would not be around if it wasn't for us. We initiated the Sports Commission, community health centres, lots of stuff. And yet, how did we raise the money to do this schools thing and all the other events? No support from Heart and Stroke, no support from Niagara Health System, from governments. It was all entirely raised, fundraising within the Niagara Peninsula from, in fact, you and your friends. Have I got another one there? So the risk factors that we're looking at is family history of premature heart attack, obviously diabetes, cholesterol. Yeah, you can move on. And everybody agrees that this clusters in families. So you've got to identify the family who are potentially at risk for an event. Thank you, go on. You've got a different set of slides than I have, so let's pack that in. So I'll just tell you a couple of things about the data that we have over the years. At the last time of reckoning, just interestingly enough, 21% of Niagara school kids are overweight. 5% of them already have high cholesterols. If you add smoking, obesity, and family history, then you're looking at a 50% chance of a heart attack sometime in their adult years. And if you have two risk factors, which in fact 12% of the kids in the Niagara Peninsula, and I should have said that this, we go into every high school, we also go into grade 5 and grade 7, but we do the testing for the risk factors in grade 9. 12% of kids already have two risk factors. And if you look at the adult risk for having two risk factors, 40% of people with two risk factors will go on to have a cardiac event. So this is something that can be easily identified. Why is it only, I mean, there are lots of other people who agree with what we do, but there's nobody who actually goes into the schools and does it. So this is the longest and largest study of child and youth cardiovascular disease around. Costs us about $4 million over the 30 years we've been doing it, and we got it all fundraising locally. So if you can look up our web page and read a bit about us, if you want to donate some money, we would be very grateful. If you are associated with a club and you want to start a fundraiser for Heart Niagara, we'll be right on your doorstep saying thank you. And we're also putting on Roaring Twenties Ball to fund this project in February. So if any of you want to sign up for that, we would be very welcome. And I thank you very much for your time. Sorry to be a little bit medical, but it is so disappointing that over the years, not many other, we've talked to government, other levels of government, the only one that has listened to us so far are you. So thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dobbin. Are there any questions? Yes, Councillor Campbell.
I just wanted to say that I've been actively involved in the Heart Niagara program down on Queen Street, and my wife joined first, and took me about half a year to follow her path, and I'm glad I did. They have a great program. It's a half-hour program. If you go there twice a week, 3 times a week, in and out, it's a social thing. You have a personal trainer, and there's a big sign on the wall that says put 30 yards on your drive. Well, I did. It goes further into the woods. But I bought a ticket for the Roaring Twenties. And based on the experience we had last year, I think you'd really, really enjoy yourselves. And I would really hope that we can get support from Council and support from the community for the efforts that you do in our community, staffing.
Thank you very much. Councillor Thompson.
Yes, thank you very much. I want to mention the man standing here, and for 30 years he was a medical GP, but went on to create Heart Niagara. Was it 30 years ago?
40.
40 years ago.
Oh dear.
I was trying to think, you're talking about the school teaching.
Oh, the school teaches 30 years.
Yeah. I had the pleasure of being involved with the initial committee when you were starting out.
You were the first president.
And you were the whole reason why Heart Niagara started, and you have been totally involved in its success and affecting people's lives in the Niagara region for so many years. So I just want to, I don't know how you thank somebody for 30, 40 years of volunteer work when they're busy in their own medical practice, but you deserve so much credit, and thank you. And I was delighted to be involved, and we also used to run together years ago. Anyway, congratulations, and you are a unique individual who has dedicated his life to such an important program. Thank you, and it's great to see you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Campbell.
We can't fail to recognize Karen Stern. Karen does most of the work at Heart Niagara. And Karen, how long have you been with Heart Niagara?
23 years.
23 years. So there's lots of experience in that organization.
Thank you very much. Well, Karen and Dr. Dobbin, both of you on behalf of the city, thank you for what you're doing, for the lives you're changing, and for the never-ending perseverance of keeping on, keeping on. We appreciate all that you're doing to help for the health of the people of Niagara.
Thank you, Your Worship. I was, of course, going to bring Karen up as well, but in response to Councillor Thompson, yeah, of course, the last 40 years were fun. It's the next 40 years we've got to worry about.
That's great. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, so now we are at item 6.4, Austin, Texas presentation. So we've got Councillors Lococo and Ioannoni are going to present for council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're all aware that we've been having some homelessness challenges in Niagara Falls and in the Niagara region. We've made some great strides, but there's a long way to go. Councillor Ioannoni and I heard about a community in Austin, Texas. It was a tiny homes village, and we did a little bit of research. There was lots of videos, and they were having a symposium coming up in November. So I'd like to thank the council for sending us there. We learned a great deal. Once the session got started, they told us that the main cause of homelessness is a profound, catastrophic loss of family. I want you to think about that. It's not poverty, it's not mental health, it's not addiction, it's a profound, catastrophic loss of family. We learned that housing is not going to solve the problem. Without community and the supports with the housing, it would not be successful. And this is where the community first model came from. In December, we heard from Ian DeYoung. Ian's theory and the region's theory is moving towards housing first. And that is going to work, but we need the community and the supports behind it. Years ago, we used to subscribe to the theory, if you get clean, we'll get you a house. If you stop drinking, we'll get you a house. That doesn't work anymore. We have to get you a house first and deal with all of the issues later on. So now we're going to go to Austin, Texas. Mr. Matson, would you mind forwarding one slide, please? This is the gentleman who started Community First. His name is Alan Graham. Back in 1998, he started out with one food truck. And this is one of their newer food trucks, but that's where it all started, with one food truck. And then he went on to the Community First Village, which is on 51 acres, and it serves 200 homeless people. Now, I want to tell you about 3 things that impacted me when I was there. The first one was I didn't see any homeless people. They weren't homeless. These were their homes. These are permanent homes, and the majority of the community were chronically homeless for at least 10 years. So no homeless people there. The second thing that impacted me was that everything was built on relationships. The community, your next door neighbor, the funders, the donors, the volunteers, the staffs, it was all about relationships and kindness. It is a faith-based program, and when we look at Austin, Texas, it's warm, it's a faith-based program. We don't necessarily have to take all of the individual concepts and bring them here, but there's a lot of great things that we can pull over into our community. And the last thing that impacted me was there was never a no. They never said no, they always said yes, and how can we do things? So those are 3 things, and now I'm going to hand it over to Councillor Ioannoni, and she's going to go through the next part of it.
And Mr. Mayor, if you don't mind, I'm going to stay seated. I'm not feeling well today, and I'll be leaving right after this presentation. Alan Graham told us that he started in the community volunteering. This is not his original truck. The original truck, we could have took a picture of it, was a heap that they've kept for nostalgia in the back of Community First to show where they've come from to where they've been. I think the best way we can describe this is a before and after. We are starting to try to come to some sort of solution. This has become Austin's solution. So this is kind of the after. They created a program that works for them. And you can move the slide, Mr. Matson. This is what they started with. He was gifted 17 acres from the City Council. City Council had a public meeting. We've all done the Not in My Backyard public meetings. It was anarchy. He said, okay, keep your land, I'll go find my own. He went to the very outskirts of Austin. He was quite wealthy. He bought the land. He has run this entire thing on not only his own money, but total donations. He takes no government money. Interestingly, in Texas, what we would all have is there is no zoning. There's no zoning requirements. You can build anything, which helped him. But tiny homes were a different thing. He started with mobile homes. He had, I think he said 15 in his first park. He had a vision and he wanted it to grow, but he had to start small. Everything I show you from here on out has been donated. Mobile Loaves and Fishes paid for nothing. I'll show you slides of donors. When we pulled in to the driveway, there were dozens of people out in garden gloves working in the dirt. We stopped two of the ladies and said, "Do you work here?" No, they were a local real estate company. That was their day to work at Mobile Loaves and Fishes. Through the entire month, every month, different businesses throughout the community come in and donate their time at Mobile Loaves and Fishes. Mr. Matson? As Lori explained to you, Grace and Mercy, Goodness and Peaceful, it is faith-based, this program, but you don't have to believe, have faith. You can be there if you're an atheist. They turn down nobody, not for sexual orientation, not for color, not for religion, not for any reason at all. Everybody is welcome. Again, it's and yes. If you're coming here, it's and yes. And he explained to us that the reason he started this was he couldn't understand, and their group couldn't understand why, if you were homeless and addicted, which comes very often hand in hand, you couldn't get into a shelter. You couldn't get addiction services because you were homeless, had no money, and no health care. You didn't have an address. You didn't have any resources, and everywhere somebody went, they were told no. So they stopped asking, and that's how people become invisible in your community. So they started with the and yes. So this is basically the theme throughout the entire village. It is goodness, mercy, kindness, and yes. Mr. Matson? We hear a lot about tiny houses, and we've had the conversation here. I know the conversation was raised at the region, and people say, "Oh, you can't have a tiny house here. The climate's bad. That's it's because it's warm weather." When Councillor Lococo and I got to Texas, we were in shorts and t-shirts. When we left Texas, the last 2 days was in the lower 50s, upper 49s. It was freezing. We were lucky enough that in the group of participants were people from Australia and people from Minnesota. The people from Minnesota thought we were funny to talk about snow and cold weather. And they are looking at the same type of community, and they have tiny houses that are insulated. Now, people say tiny houses, oh, that's not gonna work, it's redundant, it's useless, it's not a good fit. We say that because we live in a normal sized house. You ask a homeless person who is living under a bridge, and a tiny house is a castle. So, and that's how they looked at it. They were creating everybody their own independent castle. And I want you to take a look at that. That does not look like a homeless encampment. I'm giving this to you as, these are the pictures I took as we took our tour. So once you get your home, you decorate it, you maintain it, you do everything on your own. So everything you've seen there, the resident of that home is done. When you go over to the one on the right, they've started to have sustainable living by putting in water barrels. They have no water in the houses. So there's community bathrooms, they have electricity, everything is in there except for water, that they have a community kitchen, a community bathroom, but no water in these small units. In the trailer park, water in all the units. Mr. Matson? Thank you. I'm just trying to show you, they've mixed here. Here you have a mix of trailer houses and tiny houses. To your far right is a tarp. That is a tent tarp. I have a better slide of that, and I'll explain it when we come. This blue house on the left, I do believe, we're not sure if that's the one, but they have railway cars that they've turned into houses. And I'm pretty sure that's the one. And all the porches have to be, one of their rules is the porches have to be at the front of the house. It has to be facing your neighbor. Because a lot of the people who are living in this community now have spent so much time alone, as Lori explained to you, it was average 10 years, that socializing didn't come naturally. So they had to force socializing. So your front porch you had to be able to go in and out the front and talk to your neighbors. And everything is built in a round grid. It just expands because all the houses face each other, so that community has to speak to community. Mr. Matson? Thank you. This was the first street we went down here on the left. That is all trailer homes. They came from the original land that he created before they moved to this one. The one on the right, I think it's quite big for a tiny house, but it is a tiny house that somebody who had been on the average, it's beautiful, isn't it? On the average, 10 years homeless, moved into. I think the top rent there is $575. Everybody who lives in this community has to pay rent. The TARP, which you'll see shortly, started at $225. It was one of the first they built. I know it's shocking to know, but it is air conditioned and heated because when they built it, they didn't factor in the heat and people couldn't live in it with 130-degree temperature. So they actually had to air condition the tarped homes. Mr. Matson, thank you. This is a community bathroom on your left. Adjacent to it is the community laundromat. The mural you see there was painted by a resident who lives there. They're allowed free expression. There are rules to live here. Somebody asked me, what do you do about the addiction? Like, do people who move in there, are they still addicted? It's got to be a drug mecca. People who live there are still addicted. We have neighbors. Nobody knows whether your neighbor's addicted or not. It's just no different in this community. But in this community, what they've done is they have a tell. If you're in there and you're in recovery and you don't want that lifestyle, you have a different color light. So if at night if there are people getting together to party, per se, and you have a yellow light that you've turned on your front porch, people are not permitted to come and ask you to come out and party. That tells you that you're in recovery. That's one of the rules that is very enforced. Not that somebody is addicted, but that you don't push that addiction on somebody else. And when they explained to us that over the 6 years that they've been running, they've only evicted 3 people, and those were 3 people that they could not stop selling drugs. But in 3 years, only 3 had been evicted. Mr. Matson? Thank you. On the left is your community library. That's the 2-story, again, donated. To the right is the library boxes that are throughout the entire community. So you don't even have to go all the way to the library. You can use the local community boxes. Mr. Matson? Thank you. This is their recovery house. So there is an addiction counselor and a recovery house that you can go to. When we were there, they were not running AA and NA programs because in a community where you only have 200, it is very difficult to go to an AA and an NA community and be anonymous. So it's in Austin, but if you need one-on-one help, this is where you go, and there's somebody there 24/7. Thank you. This is Unity Hall. This is where our session took place. And it is just a local community center. And on the right is the weekly events. And people are extremely encouraged to attend those events. And I will tell you, in Niagara Falls, if you break a law, you get a ticket. There, if you break a rule, which isn't that imposing, like it's not that restrictive, but if you break a rule, you get a $50 ticket. They can't afford to pay $50. The $50 isn't the point. You can pay $50 or come in for a 30-minute session with a counselor there. They don't want the $50. They want the 30 minutes with the person. And they said once they get in there, it segues from 30 minutes to 90. And you get to learn your community that way and the struggles that they're having. This was one of their very first homes. Again, air conditioned and heated. We didn't enter this one. We did enter one that was brand new, but we didn't go into this one. And this is one of only 2, and these are being phased out. These are just, on almost every house there's a plaque, and it is Hoots built by. And I'm sorry, I can't see that. And I haven't followed on my own side. But so it was built by a custom homes builder, and the other one was also a custom homes builder. So when they need new houses, they simply go to the community and they ask somebody to come in and build. Schools have built, businesses have built, charities have built, churches have built, but they've paid for, Mobile Loaves and Fishes has not paid for one build of a house. They're presently building phase 2, 300 houses, all donated. This is the community kitchen. This is the outdoor community kitchen. There were barbecues going on throughout the community on the day that we did our tour. You could join or not join, but a lot of the people who lived there were out with their neighbors. Another community kitchen in another area. So it depends, like it seemed like every 15, 20 houses, there was a community shower, bathroom, kitchen, barbecue area, laundromat. So when you think, oh, can you live and have a community kitchen and go to a community bathroom, does nothing for me. But if you're homeless, that's, it's fantastic. Very pet friendly. I am the least cat friendly person I've ever known. The cats seem to find me there. The pit bull, awesome, lived on the street with his owner had been on the street over 10 years. He had had the dog 7. The dog was more than welcome in the community, and in their parks that are throughout the entire community were pet-friendly dog bags. And everybody seemed to take care of pretty much everybody. This is another community kitchen in a different area. The main kitchen in the community room that Lori and I trained in had burnt down 3 weeks before. It had a massive fire 3 weeks before, so it was being fixed, a little incident. So we weren't able to get really great pictures of the main indoor kitchen, but this is one of them. Now this is, Lori talked about her takeaways. This was my takeaway. And it was hard not to be emotional any of the time that you were there. But what they taught us was when you're living on the streets and you have nobody, and we see that here in our shelters all the time. These are people who really are isolated. When asked what their biggest fear was dying alone, nobody knowing, and being buried in a pauper's grave. This is the columbarium. They took that in mind. They created a columbarium. And if you now live in this community and you pass away, your funeral is in this community. What family you have put on your form are notified, and you are buried in the columbarium, and your friends your community who've become your friends are able to visit. I had a hard time with that one. That was very difficult. So they don't run in isolation. I mean, everybody has to make money. So what they decided was the residents coming in, everybody at one point had a strength, a job, a vocation, talent. So they decided to they created what they call their metal forge building. This is a gentleman in a wheelchair who had been on the street, again, average 10 years, and he was working in the metal forge building. And they get paid. They have a wage based on, I think it was a credit merit. But a lot of the people who are living there now, who were on government assistance, are now not on government assistance and being paid as employees in the businesses they choose. This was made in the forge. On the left is a soldier that just came home. You can't see the bag to the right of him, or it would be your left. It's his U.S. service bag, and there's a child with him, and they're homeless over a garbage can. And sadly, as we drove through Austin, we did see people out exactly like that. And to the right is just an elderly woman who is also homeless. But they made that. The people in that forge made that. And actually, they have orders that come in. People from Austin use the forge. This is a hair studio. It was built by a local high school. Hairdressers throughout Austin donate a day, and it's open all the time, and the people there can go and buy a haircut. Nothing's free. Everything has a price that you earn, but here it was just remarkable. This is their car care, so you can go get your car detailed. You have to call and make an appointment. The community of Austin uses it. This is where I got into. You'll see a picture next, but here is where a lot of gentlemen. There were no women working in there that we saw, but a lot of the gentlemen had worked with cars their entire life before whatever situation made them homeless. So when they got there, they thought this is a great idea. So they started this custom car care business, and the gentlemen that I show you, none of them are on assistance. They make their wage totally from this business. Now this picture's only important because as I was walking to the store, the gentleman second to the left, as I'm looking, I happened to just look in, and he said, "Is this your car?" And I said, "No, I am here at the seminar." And he jokes with his guys, and he said, "Listen to her talk. She's got an accent." I said, "I don't know." Coming from the man with the southern drawl, I thought that was rather funny. And so he said, oh, just keep talking so we can figure out where you're from. And I said, well, I'm from Canada. And he said, well, come over here and get a picture with us and we'll do the Texas sign. I don't know the Texas sign. So they all did the bullhorns. And when I went back and showed the picture to Alan Graham, he said, when those gentlemen were on the street, they would have never met my eyes. They would have never spoke to me. They would have never engaged in a conversation, let alone asked me to come stand and have a picture with them. So it wasn't the fact that they're working, it's the fact that they no longer feel invisible and they have the confidence and the dignity to have the conversation with us. And by the way, if you go into our shelter, it is really hard, or the hub, it is there at the point where it's very hard to engage in a conversation. It's really hard to have somebody meet your eyes. It's heartbreaking, really. Other sources of revenues, when you pull in, at the very front of the community is a set of very nice, looks very high-end tiny houses that are Airbnbs. Now, when we registered for November. We got bumped to February because November was sold out, and we booked ourselves into tiny houses. Well, February, we got bumped back to November, lost our tiny house, because it would have been an experience to be able to come back and say, we tried it, and we ended up having to stay somewhere else. But most of the delegates stayed in their tiny house, their row of tiny houses, and it's actually on Airbnb, and people can rent them, and they make revenue from it every day. It's a huge revenue stream for them. And you can use the store, you can go into the community center, it's a community. So they're not saying to you, come stay in a homeless encampment. They're saying, come stay at our Airbnbs, and it's a great source of revenue for them. This is a movie theater that's in the very front. It was donated by Alamo, and I know because we are not a warm weather climate that would be very difficult for us to do. But when Alamo heard about Mobile Loaves and Fishes, they said, hey, we'll donate this to you. They have a weekly movie night, and they have a Austin weekly movie night where the residents come, pay to see it, and sit with everybody, and people work and actually make a living from doing that. This is the community art house with the urns and the things that they make, and 100% of the revenue generated from whatever art you make goes directly to the person who makes it. And these were not things they had to teach them there. These are people who had the talent when they got there. Again, a woodworking shop along with the forge, and again, everything that they make in there, beautiful, gets sold to the community, and whoever made it gets to keep the proceeds. Mobile Loaves and Fishes doesn't keep any of it. We thought this was funny because as we got there, they were erecting the steel poles, and I said, what are you doing? And they said, we're creating our Festival of Lights. And we kind of had a chuckle on that. It wasn't done when we left, but we keep we get emails from them, and this was the Festival of Lights that actually was introduced to the community, who all came out and went through it, very much like ours, which brings the community into Mobile Loaves and Fishes. This was his idea in 2008 when he went to City Council that didn't end up happening. This was his second iteration of it. That also didn't end up happening because it was on the same piece of land, but he couldn't get past, again, the not in my backyard. And this is what he has today, and this is what he moved to the outskirts of Austin. And the reason they were able to do that is, while the City Council recognized that it wasn't going to happen within the city limits, they agreed to put transportation, local city buses, and a route that runs out to Mobile Loaves and Fishes and back. And we watched people coming and going with groceries and going to work, because some of them work off-site also. This was the participants and the staff. He started with 4. He now employs 65 people and roughly 12 missionals. And missionals are just people who commit to living there 3 months out of the year. Some of them live in Houston, some of them live far away, and they leave their home, they come there, they work 3 months, and they work as social workers, pastoral advice, that type of thing. And this is the store, and we took this because that website on the bottom does not work. We found that out after we posted that picture. But that was just to say thank you so much for sending us. I really believe that, yes, you can look on an internet, but until you're talking to people and until you see a before and after, and this seems, we watch this and we're overwhelmed, like, this took him 11 years. So it doesn't happen overnight, but it really enforced Ian DeYoung's, it takes a community. Housing alone is not going to fix it. Treating people with dignity, talking to people's faces, letting them know that you see them, letting them know they're part of the community. Without that piece, our affordable housing and anything else we try is not going to work. Alan Graham is very serious where he says, I have a laser focus. People are coming from around the world to this program. He gets invited everywhere. His city council often tries to leverage mobile loaves and fishes to get more money from the government. He doesn't allow that. He says, you want to learn mobile loaves and fishes? Because I said to him, do you think you could come to Niagara? He said, I don't go anywhere. You want to learn about mobile loaves and fishes, you come here. I work here 24/7. And his whole life is in there now. So it just shows what a community coming together will do. It's not just bricks and mortar. And again, we are so very thankful that you sent us, and we just wanted you to know what we learned, and hopefully that we can bring some of that and incorporate it back into this community. Now I'm going to let Lori finish speaking, and then I'll second her resolution and go home if you don't mind.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ioannoni. We talked about kindness going a long way, and I'd like to share with you a text I received. Back in March, I was talking to a store manager, and she was having some trouble with some homeless people. They were hanging around her store, they were coming in, and I gave her some advice. So this is the email that really touches on kindness and how we should treat people, homeless people. When we met last year, you made a suggestion to me that perhaps if I made friends with some of the problem individuals, that it might help. I admit I was not convinced. But over the past several months, having worked hard to forge relationships, or at least, quote, understandings, with many of the people I'd been having problems with, I've learned their names, maybe a little of their story, and most importantly, have been able to talk reasonably with them when there's a problem. In one instance, I banned an individual from the store. He came back later that day to apologize. We spoke for a bit, shook hands, and ever since then, he's been allowed to come back into the store with no problems whatsoever. My whole approach has changed over the last year, and it made me a better person for sure. I thank you for that. There are still problems, but my staff and I, along with neighboring properties, and if need be, the police, are having better success dealing with difficult individuals. Thanks again, and Happy New Year. So that kindness piece, eye to eye, heart to heart, and being kind to people. So now that we've heard about what's happening in Austin, Texas, I'd like to bring the discussion closer to home and the Niagara region. Mr. Matson, do you have just that little slide first, not the resolution? There we go. This is going to be part of the resolution, but I wanted to bring these figures to you. If you look at the chart, we have municipality of Windsor, Hamilton, Waterloo, and the region of Niagara. And then it lists the population back on the 2016 census. That's as far as we can go. But the allocation for the 2019-2020 funding is in that column, and then it's divided out per capita. So I want to bring your attention to Windsor. They have 398,953 people, and their per capita is $26.83. If you look at the bottom, the Niagara region, we have more people than them, 447,888, and our per capita funding is $17.52. If you look at Hamilton, obviously they have a higher population, but the funding per capita is $36.59. I've been talking to a lot of people, and I'd like to share this story with you. Over the past several years, I've sat on the board at Project Share, and I've always heard that we're underfunded. And I really didn't know what that meant. I thought we as Project Share were underfunded. And then I heard that Niagara Region was underfunded, chronically underfunded for homelessness. And again, I didn't really know what that meant. So as a counselor, I'm hearing it over and over again. And this past week, Project Share and Community Care were having a meeting about a bunch of different programs, and that comment came up again. So this time I asked. I wanted to know what that meant. So here's the story. There's a couple of different versions. In Ontario, we didn't have a lot of homeless people because we had a lot of housing available. 20 years past. 20 years ago, we started to hit the housing market and less affordable housing, and we started having more homeless people. A bunch of people got together and put a proposal to the provincial government, and it said that they took the figures from St. Catharines and Thorold, put in the proposal to the government approved it, gave that money to the region, and then the region dispersed it among the 12 municipalities. Now, I just said it was based on St. Catharines and Thorold. So there's something a little wrong there. I have spoke with Adrian at the region. She says, I'm not sure if it was St. Catharines and Thorold figures. However, the base was wrong. So every year they've taken that flawed base and they've added a percentage, 2%, 3%. So we're getting additional increases, but it's on that flawed base from 20 years ago. The Niagara region has highlighted these disparities to the province over the past few years, and the funding model has not changed. The provincial government has seen that we've been having a lot of experiences with homelessness and low affordability, so they have been throwing some money our way, but they have not changed that funding model. So as you can see, this is what I would like to address. Now, it's also important to know, I know we spoke about it at one of the last council meetings, that the region is increasing $800,000 for homelessness. That's not increasing the services. It's the same services. It's the status quo, and it's because of inflation. It's because of increased damages, and it's because organizations are having a hard time fundraising money. So the region is putting more money into homelessness, which affects our taxpayers. So I would like to put forward a resolution because the implications for Niagara are tragic. It is impacting broken families, mental health situations, and there's direct consequences for this. So the resolution I would like to put forward, Mr. Mattson, would you mind bringing that up, please?
I don't have that on the screen, but everybody has that on.
Oh, it's on the agenda? So I don't have to read the resolution if...
It is under resolutions, which is item number 9. There are 3 resolutions. This would be the 3rd one listed on the agenda.
Would you like me to read it, or is that fine?
I think for the public.
Okay. Whereas Niagara Regional Government has recognized the needs of Niagara's homeless in the Council's strategic plan. Whereas faced with growing service demands and inadequate funding, Niagara Regional Council has repeatedly placed a spotlight on these needs and additionally increased its own funding to address local homelessness and poverty. Whereas despite highlighting disparities, the current provincial homelessness funding formula has not evolved to address changing economic conditions across the province or reflect local need. Funding allocations should be aligned with mix of indicators to reflect common need, such as population, caseloads on social assistance, which is Ontario Disability Support Program and Ontario Works, and deep core need as examples. And then that's the chart that is in there. Whereas Niagara is similar to much of Southern Ontario, whereby our shelter system is operating at over 100% capacity consistently. However, where Niagara differs is the significant change in our rental vacancy rates, putting increasing pressures on shelters as individuals and families cannot exit the system to affordable rental and housing options. Specifically, vacancy rates that would support single demonstrate a significant challenge to find housing. These are 2015, 2016, 17, and 18 figures, but from what I understand, the 2019 and 20 vacancy rates are almost at 0. There are no available affordable apartments. Note, unknown means insufficient or unreliable data for that type of unit or period. Whereas lower vacancy rates combined with rising house prices and a significant seniors population have further challenged the homelessness system in Niagara, along with the community agencies that deliver support services in partnership with the region. Therefore, be it resolved that the City of Niagara Falls asks that the homelessness funding be reviewed by the provincial government as well as the regional municipality of Niagara to align to local indicators of need, population, core housing, social, through a realignment of existing funding or through allocations of new future funding. And further, that a copy of this resolution be sent to the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, Steve Clark, MPP Wayne Gates, MPP Sam Osterhoff, MPP Jenny Stevens, MPP Jeff Birch, Niagara Regional Council, Niagara Region Commissioner, Community Services Adrian Jugli, Niagara Regional Chair Jim Bradley, Niagara Region Acting CAO Ron Tripp, and all local area municipalities of Niagara.
Okay, thank you for that. Do we have any questions of council for the resolution? Okay, seeing none, so we've got the resolution moved by Councillor Lococo, second by Councillor Ioannoni. We'll call the vote. All those in favor? Okay, thank you for that. Yes, Councillor Ioannoni?
And we've thanked council for their support in allowing us to learn as much as we have. But it's also important to thank the community. There isn't a Facebook appeal request for something at the shelter or something at the hub where the community doesn't come forward and donate it. And when we talk about community having to come together, that also includes business. And Lori and I sit on Project Share that is running the shelter at this point. And one of the biggest budget items last year for the shelter was laundry. It was $17,000 to do laundry for 6 months last year, to send it out and have it done and come back. So we approached one of our local businesses, Embassy Suites, and asked Carminicella if Embassy Suites would do the laundry and pick up that cost. And not only do they do it, they pick it up and they deliver it also, free of charge. So we have an amazing community, whether it's residents or small business that are helping and donating food, or big business. So we're on that ball of community coming together. We just need to pull it all together with the region. And I just wanted to thank everybody, residents, community, and council.
Thanks. Thank you for that. Councillor Campbell. Okay.
Thank you, Your Worship. I was going to wait till new business, but it seems appropriate, coming from the Homeless Committee, that we did make a motion to ask council to designate a staff member with a social lens to be specifically responsible for addressing and researching the emerging needs of homelessness and housing solutions. I would like to make that a motion, Your Worship, that staff investigate that, staff come back. I do believe there's someone on our staff someplace that would have that social lens, and we need to have that coming from within the staff themselves.
Okay, so we got the motion by Councillor Campbell, second by Councillor Ioannoni. Maybe, I don't know if the CAO, if you want to. I'm sorry? Yeah, so we'll report back, Councillor, yeah, okay.
Yeah, just to that note, Mr. Mayor, the City of St. Catharines has 10 designated staff doing that. And they're not that much bigger than we are. I just think we're just a little behind the curve on that.
Can I speak to that? Originally, I did hear 10, and it was confirmed 10, and after that, I got an email from the mayor. They do not have any staff. They have, it came in after. They are putting $350,000 for a pilot program to put more staff and to help do that outreach. So it's not 10, but it's $350,000.
Okay, yeah, I'm sure that'll be part of the report. So we'll call the vote. All those in favor of the report? Okay, and that's approved as well. Okay, so we're done on that topic? Pardon? We did, we voted for the resolution, yeah. All right, so we are to item 7.1, the Rainbow Crosswalk request. And we've got resident Phelan Shaw, who's requested to speak to this. And I don't know if, Mr. Dren, did you want to introduce the report? It's your report, and then is Phelan here?
Fallon, yes.
Fallon, sorry, I'm sorry. Okay. Mr. Dren, did you want to maybe give an overview first of the report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The report itself is regarding the installation of a rainbow crosswalk in the downtown. And it was a request that came in to do it for, I believe it's Pride Week, and, or Pride Month, I believe, for next year.
For Pride Week, yes.
Pride Week, sorry. And so it was brought in August of last year, and is referred back to staff to come with a report to advise council as to what it would cost to install rainbow markings. And it also received support from the downtown board as well, they were in favor of it. So at that point, it was decided that Queen and Erie would be the location. And so this is what this report is about. What I could do is after the speaker gives their overview or their information, then I can come back and provide the rest of the report information on the cost.
Okay, yeah, because you did send us an email today, I think, right?
Yes.
On alternatives to different locations and whatnot?
Correct.
And, okay.
Different costs, not just locations.
Yep, Councillor Carolynn.
Yes, Your Worship. In the report, that staff is suggesting that approve the funding. You mean that the BI has come forward and said that they want to put the money up? Or you're suggesting that the city council puts the money up in this report?
Within the report, the BIA hasn't come forward and said anything.
Also, this
about funding.
the second recommendation is that we
Is-
put the money up?
Correct.
Okay, yeah, Councillor Lococo.
The BIA has come forward and they will contribute some of the money depending on the cost. An email was sent today to the clerk and to myself. We can talk about that when we find out the cost.
Okay, that's good to know as well. At this point, any council questions or comments? Okay, so Fallon, if you'd like to come to the mic.
Thank you, Your Worship, council members. I just want to say thank you. When I brought this forth at the end of July, August, I just really thought it would be important to have a symbol of solidarity between our leaders in this city and the LGBTQ plus community. One of the reasons I wanted it downtown is because I believe that we can rejuvenate downtown. I know it's been a little bit of a lengthy process, but I do see with what's going to happen as far as the GO buses coming out there, some of the work they're doing on the roads and everything, I really think, 5 years from now, it is going to be a place that is filled with people. And I believe having the rainbow crosswalk down there is just going to be great for people that are just coming right into the city. One of the first things they can see. We also have a safe space called Third Space Cafe, and it is on Queen Street as well. It's located pretty much directly across the street. And that is where we hold any type of LGBTQ plus event for Niagara Falls. It is the only safe space in Niagara Falls. So I think that it's really important to try and create a safe street, a place that people can come when they come to Niagara Falls or locals. So thank you very much, and thank you all for the consideration of this.
Let me see if there's any questions first of Fallon. And do we have any questions of council? Okay, so we're good at that point for this. So stick around, who knows where the questions might go.
Thank you.
Okay, so do we have, Mr. Dren, did you want to do the second part of your presentation?
So yes, we can continue. So with regards to the request that came in, staff went and investigated and to see what options there are for if council chose to put a crosswalk in, rainbow crosswalk, what the cost would be if council chose to do that. So we investigated the difference between painting it, because I know there's many communities that go out and they do volunteer and they paint the crosswalk with a traffic style paint. So it's not just normal, go to Home Depot and buy your paint, it's special paint. And then we looked at various more permanent solutions, and we compared them all. So when we compared all the options, and I sent around some background information to council, we looked at paint, we looked at thermoplastic, and then a more robust form of thermoplastic is that over a 10-year lifespan, which is the third product, will give you 10 years, low or non-maintenance. And when you looked at all the other options, they equated to all basically the same price over a 10-year period. So paint would have to be repainted every 3 months, and also the look wouldn't be as robust. Thermoplastic, the first option of thermoplastic, was a lesser quality used out in the market that only has a life of 5 years. So that means you're doing it twice. So it actually is more costly over a 10-year period. And then we looked at, when we got the cost, it was about $14,000 there's a slide on the screen up there, and it's by intersection, west side, north side, east side, south side. So we were proposing the west side, which happens to be the longest portion, or the longest crosswalk area. So as an option for council, we were suggesting perhaps maybe they want to consider the south side. It's a shorter section. It connects our park and the area that's going to be I believe a green space, which is the current courthouse, once that's removed or demolished. And so it just makes more sense that it connects the two. But again, that's council's option to choose what they want, if they want to do it, and what they want to do with it.
And the cost differential, Mr. Dren, if we were to do the south side versus the proposed west side,
Is half, so it's $7,000. So it's half the cost. And it's due to distance, right? It's the size, right? So it's the same product, it's just $7,000. And just a tidbit of information, you know, before I came this evening, I spoke to St. Catherine's. They're doing the same thing. They have a committee that's formed to look at many for their city, but they approved one. And theirs was a section that's a little bit shorter than ours, and it was $6,000. So it's the same product, it's just, it's based on size of, or distance that you're putting the application down. So they again chose one.
and are they doing the same type of material that is proposed in the report?
Yes, they are.
And do you know offhand, maybe not a fair question, but McMaster, I dropped my daughter off and they've got one painted there. Do you know what that material is or what they use there?
It would be a thermoplastic product, right? That's in Hamilton, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Hamilton has done this for a while, and we actually have contacted Hamilton to talk to them as well to see, you know, how the longevity of the product and so on. And so, yeah, it would be the same product.
Okay. Do we have questions for Mr. Dren? Councillor Carey.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have questions. First of all, I'd like to say that I appreciate the initiative and I support the concept 100%. I question whether or not a crosswalk is the best way to do it. We have the crosswalk at Fallsview Boulevard, Mr. Dren, was made out of concrete. It's been replaced 5 times in the last 7 or 8 years. I don't know if I believe that a painted crosswalk is going to stand up for 7 to 10 years. You know what happens when the plows go over it? If the shoe on the plow is not the regulated thickness, if it's worn down and the blade of the plow hits the painted or treated crosswalk, I'm just not sure that we're going to get the life out of it. And then somebody's going to, you know, I wouldn't want to do it and have it not look nice. You'd have to maintain it. So I'm just not sure that that's the only thing we should think about. Like thinking about the way that, you know, we participate, I'm 100% in favor. Whether or not I agree with spending $14,000 to paint a crosswalk to show our support, I'm not sure that I buy in 100%.
So just in response to that, just so council understands, there's 3 alternatives that I put in front of, that I sent to you this afternoon, or this morning. And one of them is a lesser cost. It's half the price of the one that's being recommended. So if you're concerned about, okay, if it's only gonna last for 5 years, then we'll get 5 years out of it, it would be half the cost of that. But you can only expect 5-6 years out of it.
And what was that one?
That was so if the one was 14.
The material's the same?
It's the process is very similar. What happens is the one we're recommending is a better process, and it's a thicker material. So in the case of if you do the south leg of the intersection, instead of being $7,000, it would be $4,600, and that you're getting at least 5 years out of it. So those are the options. That's why I brought it out to council, is to say there are other options out there, and it's just to choose which one, you know, you feel is better.
Well, the only thing I'd like to add was I could think of a lot of things that you could do to show our support. You could print decals and stickers and put them on every vehicle in the city. You could put flags on every street in the city. I don't know whether or not, you know what I mean, I can think of a lot of things. I just wouldn't like a crosswalk to be put there and then have it not be good after a certain amount of time. But anyway, I'll listen to everyone else.
Councillor Campbell? Yeah, did you want to have that question?
I would just like to address what you're saying. So, as you know, we would not be the first person or the first city to put this crosswalk. We are very behind in the times. And as a community member to the LGBTQ+, unfortunately, you'll never know what it means to have something like that put in your city. I mean, fortunately, probably. It's better that you don't know what it feels like to not have that support. And when you get your city and all of you putting something like this, I know it doesn't seem like stickers, that's not a good idea. This shows solidarity, this shows unity. I volunteer at Stamford High School, and the kids in my pride group, first thing they said was, "What's taking so long? Why did it take so long?" Second thing was, we're the most recognizable, one of the most recognizable names in the world. Why do we not have one? And then the other kid said, let's not complain about that. Let's just be happy that they're actually considering it, because honestly, some of those kids, I don't want to get emotional, but some of those kids have no support, and they don't know that there's support out there. And when you take a symbol like that, which to someone who is not gay or in that community, it just seems like a crosswalk, but honestly is an educational tool. It is going to teach the people that are against it. I don't want to say haters, but there are some people in this community that are very against it, not only due to the price, but due to the principle or what have you.
Yeah, so there's no misunderstanding. I perhaps my remarks by suggesting I'm 100%.
Oh, and I believe you.
And it's not that I'm not supportive of the idea.
But like they're saying, if we can make it smaller and we can cut the cost in half, the symbol's still there and it makes people happier, and the BIA is going to contribute. I really think that with all of that together, it would be a great idea. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I've got Councillor Campbell, Strange, and Dabrowski.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through yourself to Mr. Drin. You know, when we drive down the highway coming back from Fort Erie to Niagara Falls, all those paint samples, is that how this design, this making of this crosswalk is going to be created, based on the experiences of paints like that?
Those are test areas, and there's one in Grimsby as well. And so what it is the Ministry of Transportation puts down these strips to actually test the longevity of products. They may be products they're using, they may be products where manufacturers come in and say, try ours out.
Right.
So there are various different products from different companies that they're testing.
But there are snow plows that go down the highway, and so that has all been pre-tested. I can't help but think that, especially if we do it on the south side, I love the concept of joining City Hall to the park, and I would suggest that majority of traffic is going to go east-west, west-east on Queen Street, as opposed to coming in, and so the wear and tear on that would be far less than the wear and tear on the west or the east side.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Strange.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think we've been receiving emails from both sides, and I think everybody here is in support of the LGBTQ community, and loves the initiative, especially by Fallon. It shows a lot of guts, you know what I mean? And you look at Canada, what a great country we are, and I think we're ahead of the world, I think, in this particular instance. You know, there's a lot of countries, because of your sexual orientation, that they'll kill you. You know, and I think Canada's voted the #1 in the world, because #1 place in the world, because we have the freedom of speech, the freedom of showing your sexual orientation, and support it. But we've been getting emails about the cost, and $14,000 from tons of taxpayers who are not in support of spending taxpayers' money for this. I'm in total support of doing something. I don't know if it's written in stone if we have to do a crosswalk. I know Clark's here from Arts and Culture, and if there's some way that we can possibly get them involved, wherever it may be, to get them involved in making something that might be substantial, whether it be at Arts and Culture, at our new hub. There's a farmer's market there every Saturday. That could be great exposure for that particular, whatever it be, a crosswalk, a pole or something. I don't know if it's going to be solved today, what we want to do. And I don't, like I said, I don't know if a crosswalk has to be a crosswalk. I know they've been doing it a lot all over Canada, but I can't support. I'm supporting the cause, I just can't support spending $14,000 on this, and to even do it $7,000, and then in 5 years we have to, another $7,000, and it'll probably be a lot more in 5 years, I'm sure. But if we can, and I don't know if Clark has anything to say about that, or if they can get involved somehow, or if they're willing to get involved somehow to maybe take the initiative and get other people involved and maybe doing something that might be a little bit cheaper and free would be great.
Mr. Burnett, I don't know if you wanted to weigh in at all at this point.
So we already work with Family
Okay.
on a regular series at the museum, and we've been talking about other potential as well. So
Thank you, Claire.
That relationship is already happening.
Okay.
Mr. Dren?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, Mr. Mayor. Within your report, council members, there's two different styles of crosswalks, if you look at it. One is like a ladder style, and one is the lineal style. So both of them are being used in the community. When we spoke to other communities like Barrie, Hamilton, and London and so on, they were both being used and they're both being tested. Obviously, the latter one is a little bit less expensive, but it still achieves, I think, what you're trying to achieve as well.
Definitely.
I don't have the exact price of that one, but I know it is less expensive because it's taking up less, there's less color involved with it. In other words, instead of across the street, it's a ladder design. And from a maintenance perspective, it's a little bit more maintenance-free as well. So that's a suggestion as well.
Okay, thank you.
Just a little quick question.
Yeah, Councillor?
Carl, why so much for that? Like, why? Like, when I'm looking at it, I'm looking at it, I just can't understand why so much to paint the crosswalks. I understand, no matter which one you do. I would have thought we'd have got 5 of them for that kind of money.
It's just the cost of the material, of what's going down.
Okay.
When you look at, if you put paint on the road, it's a couple $100 for that, right? But in this case, probably about $500 if you did the same thing with traffic paint. But the thing is, though, you have to repaint. In this case, if you use paint, you'd have to repaint it every 3 months. So when you start adding that up and compare it to the cost of the thermoplastic, which is virtually maintenance free, and we do have it throughout the city on many of our center lines. There is plastic paint or plastic lines out there. They just last longer and they're maintenance free. So that's, I guess what we did is we weighed out the two and said over a 10-year period, it's going to be either the same cost or less expensive to do the thermoplastic over having to go out and maintain something every 3 months.
Okay, I've got Councillor Dabrowski.
Thanks for your presentation. I think it's a great first step in the right direction.
Thank you, Chris.
For genuine inclusivity here in the city of Niagara Falls. It takes a couple of minutes to Google News Pride Crosswalk. There's municipalities all across North America, San Diego, Toronto.
Everywhere.
I think we should be next. In terms of the city investment and cost to the taxpayer, I love the idea of using the south end at the cost of, I think, Carolynn went $4,700. And I think the BIA, I'm not sure if anybody from the Queen Street BIA is here tonight. I know you sit on the board, but in terms of beautification and marketing efforts on the street, I think it's a win-win for the community. I think it's a win-win for the street as well. So in saying that, in terms of the BIA budget, I like to propose that the BIA covers half the cost of the crosswalk on the south end. And I'd like to make a motion that we refer the report back to staff so they could meet with the Queen Street BIA and see about covering half the cost. And on top of that motion, I'd maybe like to see a couple of pride crosswalks across the city, maybe in the Falls View area or Lundy's Lane. So maybe have staff meet with members of other BIAs in the city and see if they'd be interested in a similar installation of this type and maybe covering half the cost as well. I think it's worth the ask. So that's my motion. And if we can get the report back by the next meeting, because I know Pride Month is in
It's in, yeah, so it'll be the first
Week of
to
June.
the 6th or
I believe
7th,
the
yes.
city does a flag
We do
raising
the
as
flag
well,
raise,
so
it would be
maybe-
perfect to
maybe
have
we
that
can turn
there.
it into a
Well,
bit of a
we plan, the
celebration as
BIA
well.
and I plan on working together to put some type of, street-wide
Amazing.
celebration.
So I think in terms of cost, we look at $23.50, if my math is correct, if the BIA splits the cost with us. Thank you.
Just before we do, if I can just get confirmation on timing. Now, was the report suggesting we've got to first do a few things in that area, so what's the timing? I don't know, the Pride Day, if it would be done in time, like what's your thoughts, if this gets approved?
Mr. Mayor, if I can ask the Director of Municipal Works, because he's doing, under his area, he's doing the roadworks, so
Yep.
can I update you?
Mr. Nichol?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. We're presently putting the tender documents together to get that road resurfaced. At this point in time, until we award it to a contractor, we can't absolutely guarantee that we're going to have both a successful contractor and the timing worked out. However, we've made it a specification in the tender that this work would be done. We'd include it as a contract item in the tender once it's decided on what was going to be done, and we'll probably include some provisional options so that when council makes their decision, we're ready to go. I cannot, at this point in time, say with 100% certainty that it will be done because we haven't locked in a contractor yet. However, we are headed in that direction.
Okay, great. So we've got the motion by Councillor Dabrowski, Councillor Lococo. Were you seconding that?
I have a few comments to make on the
Yep.
motion. This item has brought up so many texts, phone calls, emails. It's very important to so many people. So I had an opportunity to talk to people in the community, and they told me how important it was. Some people didn't care about it, but the majority of them thought it was very forward of us to do, and we are behind the times, so we really need to do it. The issues were cost, location. I did speak with 4 artists to talk to them about the different paints and how much it would cost for them, and none of them said that they could do it. The BIA, if we're talking about $4,700, they would contribute $1,000. That was their limit, because our meeting yesterday, we were talking about St. Catherine's had a $6,000 one, and they said if it was $6,000, they would go $1,000. So it's not going to be half. That was their motion. Another question that came up today was what's going to happen if it's damaged, because some of the crosswalks do get damaged, and what happens then. I know in some of my discussions, if a car burns rubber, it will wreck some of the material. So what happens then, and who's paying for the repairs? And then someone else suggested maybe 5 years is not too bad instead of going 10 years, because a lot of our symbols change, just like our wheelchair symbol, those things. So maybe in 10 years it might be different. So if we go 5 years, maybe that's better. So those are my comments.
Okay. Councillor Dabrowski.
Just in response to that, I'd be a little shocked if the BIA wouldn't consider taking maybe $500 out of the beautification budget, $500 out of their marketing budget to get to that, whatever the cost is. I see this as a landmark, not just for locals and the LGBT community, but for tourists as well. I think Abbey Road and the Beatles, but I think this would be a landmark where tourists would visit. They'd come down to the Queen Street area. I think businesses would benefit from it. I think the community benefits from it. I think it's a win-win for everybody involved. So I'll stick with my motion and lay it out on the floor.
Okay, so I've got Councillor Carrió and then Campbell.
Could I hear the motion again by Councillor Dabrowski?
Yeah.
We moved the report back to staff so they can meet with members from the Queen Street BIA to see if the BIA would cover half the cost of the crosswalk being painted on the south side of Queen Street.
Okay, and I have some other ideas about funding, so if we could include an alternative funding.
Sure.
And if we put that in the motion, we'd send it back to staff, and then we get together with staff and see if we can come up with some alternative ways to fund it rather than through the taxpayers.
Great.
And I'd support the motion in that case. I'll second it in that, if you add that.
Okay, is that a friendly
Done.
amendment?
Yes.
Okay, Councillor Campbell.
I'm fine with this.
Okay, so everyone heard the motion, so we're pushing it to staff to meet with the downtown BIA.
And potentially the other BIAs in the city as well.
Yeah, and share it with the other BIAs, say we can do the same kind of arrangement with the other BIAs, and also to look at alternative means of financing the project. Is that right?
Yeah.
So, and we're asking for that to come back to is that the next meeting?
Next
That's
meeting.
in 2 weeks.
Is that okay? A couple weeks?
Yeah.
And I just wanted to say thank you to all of you. I really appreciate everything, and all we want is to get it done. If we can make both sides happy, where we're not spending tons of taxpayer money, that's great. Because honestly, we don't want one community upset with another because they feel the money is not being spent right.
For both sides, so that's why I tried to come up with something else.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Hold on one sec, we haven't voted yet.
Okay.
Mr. Dren?
Just a comment on back by next meeting, there's no way we could do that and meet with all the BIAs and
Yeah.
get the information we need.
No, I think
So,
they just
for
need
the-
this
the
BIA.
Queen
just
Street
with, just
BIA.
with the downtown BIA?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, so we got the vote, the motion, everybody understands it? All those in favor? Okay, and that's unanimously approved. So we'll be back here in 2 weeks, and then
See you
hopefully
in
we
2
can make it
weeks.
official.
Thank
Sounds
you.
good. All right, thank you very much. All right, moving on to item 7.2. It's the Bridgewater Street Parking Review. And Mr. Duran, did you want to introduce this item?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an item that was, that comes back from a recommendation from last fall, and it was to do with the parking difficulties that are occurring on Bridgewater Street, where there were certain parking lots that were created, and they were partially on the road, partially on OPG property, and it was to deal with trying to clean up the parking situation. And so this report outlines the steps we took to involve the residents, send out questionnaires, get feedback from the residents, also get feedback from OPG, and to look at how we can correct the parking situation out there. And it's recommending that for 2021 that we include a reconstruction of the shoulder area in the 2021 budget, capital budget, and that until that's passed, we would put up a parking restriction on the, I'll say the south side, it's kind of southwest side, and that people would be permitted to park parallel on what is the northeast side until that point, until that time that it's rehabilitated. And I'm not sure if Mr. Nicol wants to add anything on the process of rehabilitation, but hopefully I've summed it up. So that's where that sits right now with respect to that. We've also, I believe, Council has received information from OPG that they're supportive of the recommendations of staff, and that they've outlined some of the issues and the problems they've had with people parking on the OPG lands, and so they were concerned about that as well. So essentially what staff is asking for is that we proceed with putting this to the 2021 budget, and in the meantime that a parking restriction is implemented and people are now permitted to park on the one side of the road.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Nicol, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to add that staff looked at two options to help provide some additional width on the road. The first option was to extend the pavement. It needs to be extended by about 2 meters. And to do that, just to extend the pavement, we could look at putting a gravel base and leaving it. However, that was not recommended due to the fact that that would cause some additional damage to an already distressed road. So what we feel would happen in that situation is that all the additional construction traffic to bring the stone and the excavators would do significant damage, and we'd likely have to be in a resurfacing position anyways. That's just a speculation, but likelihood that we have that situation. So we tabled that as an option in the report, but the preferred alternative is to widen the road, which will also help some of the drainage issues that come along with widening it, and to complete a full road rehabilitation with new asphalt upon completion. And because that value is quite significant at around $330,000, we felt it would be best to be dealt with as a budget deliberation for 2021. That recommendation was also supported by OPG, as they do not want to see that granular tracked into their property if we only proceeded with the widening with gravel only.
Okay, thank you for that. Yes, Councillor Pietrangelo.
Yeah, Your Worship, I just want to say I think that this is the best solution that we've come up with, to be honest with you. I mean, as a municipality, we have to provide some parking on the street. I agree with OPG's comments in the sense that they don't want the northerly shoulder to be granular, because if you can imagine with cars just, I guess, driving by and even snow plowing in the wintertime, all of that gravel is going to end up on their property, and we're just going to have to replace the gravel, and they're just going to have to take the gravel off their property. So I think this is the best solution that's going to provide parking on street. The only question that I have is, will parallel parking on the north side, which is what it's proposed to be allowed from now until the resurfacing is done? And if that's the case, then I think it's problem solved and we move forward. I'd be happy to move the recommendation.
Mr.
The
Good.
answer is yes. It
Yes.
will be permitted.
So you're making a motion?
Yeah, I'm happy to move the recommendation.
Okay,
It
moved
looks like
by,
there might be some residents here from Bridgewater. I don't know if anyone's here from Bridgewater that would like to speak. And is that okay?
is there anyone that had, that, so you see there's a motion right now and a second that we move the report. And the report is that we widen the road, repave the road, remove the parking out on the grass and the gravel part, and restrict parking only to the north side, so on the river side. That's what the recommendation is that we're proposing right now to put through. Does everybody understand that? Yes, did you want to speak to it? If you do, you have to come up to the microphone here where we can hear you.
All right.
You just got to state your name and your address if you would. If anybody wants to speak to it, all I ask is try not to repeat. If you like it, you don't need to say anything. If you got any questions or challenges or problems, then you might as well come up and say it now.
Hi.
Hi.
Your Worship, council members, my name's Peter Elia. I live at 4116 Bridgewater Street.
Okay.
Okay? Read the report, looked at the recommendations. I just want to talk about recommendation 1 and 2. And I like our lane. I don't see any reason for the road to be widened at all, especially at the cost of $330,000, where we could probably use that money in a much more progressive fashion. The reason I'm saying that is I'm looking at the statistics in the report, and one of the numbers in there that sticks and comes to mind, 16 out of the 24 respondents, or 75% of the people, said there's enough parking on the street for guests by using their driveways and by using the space available to them. Secondly, there's another number in there that says twice as many people responded saying no to the riverside parking. And I think if all of you sat back and lived on the river, would you really want a stream of parking down on the riverside when most situations and streets we have in the city of Niagara Falls, parking is on the house side? So those are the thoughts I want to leave you with. I think there's a better use of money versus spending it on widening of the road and shortening the green space we have there.
So you suggested leaving it exactly as it is?
Leave it as it is. Put in your parking recommendation to park either on the house, I would like it on the house side, and perhaps, I mean, the representation is here. We've got people from all over the street that can stand up. But I think I get twisted. The commercial end probably needs a little more repair on the street than down at our end. So I'll leave it open for comments and suggestions to anybody else.
Any other questions? Any questions of council for Mr. Elia? Okay, thank you very much.
He should be on council. He doesn't want to spend money.
Well, I've heard better reasons to spend money being here.
Mr. Zambito, we understand that the part of the reason for widening was because getting a fire truck down there. I know it was Chief Boudelier. I'm not sure if you're as tuned up on that, but do you have any comment on the issue of not being able to get a truck down or a fire truck down the road with cars parked?
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. We do have some concerns with regards to, we've had some recent incidences where in other areas of the city on Sarah Street, and you can see on the agenda, so there's another report coming, that our staff have had challenges driving down the road with cars being parked on both sides of the road, and we've had a very near miss in damaging the cars in responding. So in light of that, we've brought that to the director with regards to having no parking in certain areas of these of the streets, in some cases both, and in others on just one side, to allow emergency services. And I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge both police and EMS as well, that we need that adequate width on the roadway in order to respond, especially during the winter months when there's snow accumulation along the curbs as well. So yeah, we have raised these concerns, and thus the report in front of you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else here that wishes to address council about the report? Yeah, if you'd like to come forward, and then if you'd like to come forward, just state your name and address if you would.
My name is Natalie Boyd. I'm at 3800 Bridgewater Street, so I'm at the Laura Secord House, where we have some major parking issues, and we've kind of been left out of any of these reports and communication, actually, because we're north of Dock Street. So we've been included in the kind of surveys and questioning of what we would think we would want for the street, but we weren't included in any of your documentation. So it's
What are your
just,
thoughts on the report, the recommendations?
I believe the street needs to be addressed. We have potholes everywhere. The side shoulder is in really bad shape, and so definitely there's something that needs to be done with our street, because they keep coming to patch it, especially directly in front of my house. But parking is an issue, because there's parking for the shops that are north of me, and then I'm on the shoulder side, so I have all the bank people that park there. But the parking spots that are delegated in front of the businesses all have like these little section crosswalk in front of their shop doors. But anywhere from the corner of Bridgewater and Laura Secord all the way down to Dock Street, we don't have that. So people are parked like one after another, all the way till you get past Peggy's, the veterinarians next door. And then it's green space, so it's grassed, so nobody parks from past the vets to the corner of Dock Street. So I think parking needs to be addressed for the whole street and not only from Dock South, because we have a major issue with the street at the top of the street. Coming around over the bridge, we have a small one-way area that everybody cuts the light. So they don't want to go to the light, they cut around, they go around onto Bridgewater and at Laura Secord Place, or through our parking lot, because we now have the old Sam's Market. So they cut through the parking lot to avoid any sort of slowdown or whatnot. So there is a huge issue with the small section being a one-way and the rest being a two-way. There's parking issues and there's street rehabilitation problems. So I just
You know,
wanted
there's
to let
one
you
half a
guys
second. I'm gonna ask Mr. Dren if you could, because is this outside of the area that we're talking? Like, so do you have any comment on that, what she's talking about?
The only thing I can suggest is that now staff look at that area as well. I mean, it is the business area that she's speaking of. There is free parking as well as pay parking in that area. I know there's certain businesses that park along Bridgewater, along the river side, and it's free parking. I mean, we could limit parking, but then you're gonna affect the shop owners and their staff. So it's a bigger issue than just, because the other one is residential in nature, it has to be treated differently in the way we review it, because there's pay parking, there's free parking, there's and businesses in that area.
Well, we
So
have
it's
no,
something that we can look at further, and not to be included as part of this. I mean, the road rehabilitation is something that I can speak to the director of municipal works about, to see where that is on his program, and address that separately.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Strange? you wanted to-
So the location here is what the gentleman was talking about, you're in the business side of it then? Is that?
well, not really. I'm a
okay.
residential home surrounded by businesses, yes.
Okay.
But I have a residential neighbor to my right and a business to my left, the vets to the left. But there is no paid parking anywhere around us anymore. It's all been removed. So it's a limited time parking.
Any other questions for Ms. Boyd, council? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, whoever would like to come up next? State your name and your address, please.
My name is Paul Walker. I live on 4019 Main Street, and we own from Main Street to Bridgewater. Okay, so that's all part of our property. I've been there since 1979, so it's quite a while. I can't imagine what it would be like to have, if you're widening, we live right where the old water treatment plant is. So if they try to widen that street, okay, there's concrete abutments there, because there's a big mound right behind our home. And that's where all this concrete abutment is still there. So it's gonna be a heck of a job to try to widen that street, especially right there. But since we've been there, there are people that park from time to time, but not all the time, on that side, the water side. But we would prefer, and everybody I've talked to on the street, including Dan Bowman and so many other people that are living on the water, nobody wants any parking on that side. There's one household, I think, that wants that parking, and that's what's causing all of this uproar, okay? But for all the people that I've talked to there, on the water side, they don't want any parking, you know? So that's what the feeling is on the street and all of the people that I've talked to. So.
And the widening, the perspective on the widening?
Well, the widening, I think, because of right behind our house, would be very, very difficult because there's concrete abutments where all that, you know, I don't think you're going to be able to widen it very much.
I'd just like to get a comment from Mr. Nicol on the concrete abutments. Has that been taken into account?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, I think I need a little bit more information on it, but I will say I have had my staff out there to do a full review of the road. We're looking at Bridgewater from Dock to the southwesterly limit, I suppose, or the turnaround. I'm not aware there's any concrete abutments. The widening would occur on the river side, so we wouldn't be widening towards the residential driveways. We'd like to maintain the integrity of those driveways. So I'm not aware of there being any concerns, but if there are any, then I'd like to connect.
It's where the old water treatment plant used to be.
I'm sorry, I don't know where that is,
okay.
but if we could
Yeah.
connect on it, it would be helpful.
Okay.
Do you see it, Ken? They're trying to figure out where exactly that is. Toward the QEW way, that way?
Yes.
So we're at the end, right where it ends, like it loops around the end?
No, we live up, but there's one street, we live 3 houses over from the last street that comes down to the water, towards the water, and I'd be 3 houses over. And right behind our house is where this old water treatment plant is. And it's as soon as you get right at the edge of the concrete, the tarmac, when you walk up, there's a big mound there, and that's going to be really difficult to try to widen the street there. But with the people I've talked to, what it comes down to is, ever since we've been there, and we've been here for a lot of years, nobody wants any parking on the water side. I mean, that's the general consensus of opinion. I think there's one person that does want that, and they're fighting desperately to get it. So, but the general consensus is they don't want it.
Okay, and I've got Councillor Pietrangelo. I don't know if it was a question for you?
No, Your Worship, but I do appreciate the residents coming and giving us their opinion. I guess I wanted to ask, and I'm going by what's in our report. It says, based on the responses from Bridgewater Street residents and a technical review of the study area, staff is recommending the following. So perhaps we can have staff give us what the responses were from the residents that are there, because we've already had a couple come forward and say, we don't want any parking on the water side. You know, we want it on the housing side. So what's staff's rationale? Do we have any numbers? Because I didn't see them. I mean, I'm going on what it says in the report.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have those numbers with me. I mean, the difference between putting the parking on one side of the road or the other side of the road is the reason why you would want parking on the riverside is the capacity. I'm just looking at the aerial view. So there's houses on the I'll call it the south side of the road. There's a lot of driveways, and you can't get very many vehicles there. So what this does is allows for capacity because you have a wide open section available to park. You know, it's really, parking is one of those things that it could be one side or the other. It's not, from staff's perspective, it was really based on capacity and the ability to put the most vehicles on the other side of the road. And it would lessen the impact on some of the side streets in there like Sophia and also for Oliver Street, because then those vehicles would spill over into the side streets. So it was really from that perspective, it's where your capacity of vehicles are.
No idea what the responses are.
Yes, we don't have access to the responses though.
We do, I just don't have them with me.
Councillor Campbell.
Your worship, I can appreciate that staff approach this from a practicality perspective. I think the residents are talking about an aesthetic quality. And I have to agree, I think it's wrong to have people parking on the riverside.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, did you want to come up and speak? Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Walker.
Hi, Your Worship, Council. I'm Rob Booth at 4104 Bridgewater Street. I can appreciate the people don't want us parking on the river side of the road, but that creates a whole new problem with the road has to be widened then. Because if that's the case, the road isn't wide enough to park cars and have emergency vehicles and two-way traffic. So you have to park on the shoulder. On the shoulder is in everyone's front yard. That's going to cause a new problem. So it has to be on the river side of the road because the property there, there's no curb, right? If there was a curb, you couldn't go in the front yards, and you would absolutely have to widen the road. So to park on either side really requires widening the road. It's that simple.
Any questions? Yes, Mr. Dren.
So if I could just comment, he's absolutely right with respect to the width. And what we're talking about here is a restriction and something to do as an interim step until the road can be widened. And so what we're suggesting is that from that perspective is that you would have the parking on the riverside, and then once the construction takes place, then you can decide what side you want to put the parking on after that. Yeah. But right now, they have to cheat a little bit onto the grass of the OPG land in order to get the vehicle off the road. So, which is what's happening today. So and therefore you would have less of an impact on the width of the road by doing it that way. So the riverside would be the ideal one as an interim step, but maybe as a long-term step once it's reconstructed, then we can look at where the parking should be permanently.
My second point was going to be what Mr. Dren brought up in the fact that it creates a volume issue because you have the width of the driveways. If two cars won't fit in the spot between two driveways, it's now a one-car parking space. So there's definitely a volume issue. And when we have family functions and stuff, there just isn't going to be. I mean, people are going to be parking a long way away, which maybe isn't a bad thing. But we have some people in our family with disabilities, and we at this current time we take our vehicles out of the driveway and put them on the road so those people can use our driveway. So just a thought.
Any questions for Mr. Booth? Okay, thank you very much.
You're
Thank you. Yes, if you'd like to come up, state your name and your address.
My name is Marianne McKinley, and I live at 4092 Bridgewater Street. I agree with what Rob just said. The main issue is just parking and having family and friends when we have gatherings, birthdays, Christmas. It's not every day. We don't have enough parking for our family and friends that come over. They do park on the shoulder right now because there's no other areas. I will say I do have one of those parking areas across the street from my house. It was there when I moved in. And we're more than willing to get rid of those parking areas that people have complained on the street about. And this is how this all created, and this is how it was all started, from our parking areas. So we were getting off the road so that people and traffic could get through. So we do need a spot to park our cars for family and friends. It doesn't happen all the time. Like I said, at various activities, Christmas time, summertime, it's not happening all the time. I work full time. My family and friends are not coming over every night or even every weekend. So we do need some parking. That's all we're asking, is that we can have some parking. And it's not going to happen all the time and block anybody's view, or it's not going to be constant.
Any questions or comments for Ms. McKinley? Yeah, Councillor Thompson?
So are you suggesting that they do the extension of the road on the one side and then put the parking on the other side?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think they should extend it and let us park on the riverside so that it's not, like they said, there's more volume if we put on the riverside, but it's not going to be that. It's often, it's not often. It happens ever so often.
This has been a very difficult situation. First of all, I want to address the one right off of Cummington Square the first block there, the one, there's stone there where all the park, I was getting calls from the apartment, from the people wanting to park there, and there is parking there now, but it's stone parking, isn't it? I think
Yeah.
that should be definitely asphalted and fix that up and do it properly, because it's a mess right now. I had a piece of property on Bridgewater and a great dock there. I have to tell you, this is a very special area. There's not too many places like this in the city of Niagara Falls where you can enjoy your property. And I always was told, don't go on the grass, stay off the grass. And I think that it's really important that the people who live there, who built their houses, want to have that view of the green grass and the river, rather than having all kinds of parking there.
Well, they can have that view because people are not parking every single day in front of their houses. It's ever so often when we have functions and family functions and gatherings. So it's not every day.
So what I think a solution to solve the problem here is maybe extend the 2 meters of the roadway and then permit parking on the house side. Would that not be a solution?
As
here?
long as we have parking. We just need parking for family and friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. So whatever they decide.
You know, you got a beautiful area there, beautiful environment, the river and the grass. I think that keeping the parking on the other side, in my opinion, that's what I would prefer if I still, which I'm sorry I don't have, in the dock area.
We just won't get the volume on that side, that's all. That's why they had suggested the river side when we have people over.
When I read the report, I had a great deal of difficulty trying to find out what really the people wanted there. And I'm still kind of confused. We're trying to make the right solution here, but when I was told if you got 2 cars side by side, the emergency vehicles can't get down there, and that's not good.
Yeah, it is narrow. It's very narrow.
Yes, yeah. So I think we should go back and find a definite solution. I think the idea of expanding and also then putting the parking on the residential side may be the answer, but we want to solve the problem for the people. I think the upper side certainly has to be done with asphalt and clean that up. And then I'd like to really have more input into this before we make a final decision. And we have the time because we're talking about 2021 for the expansion. So I think they got a very special area, and I think we should take the time to make the right decision on this.
Question for Mr. Nicol, and then I have a thought too. Are you proposing 2 steps? One is the widening, and then the following year the paving, resurfacing, or are you saying all at one time?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, it would be in one construction project, the whole thing.
Okay, so, and then there's a suggestion by Mr. Dren that you do this, and while it's being done, you allow, until it gets done, you allow the parking on the riverside, slightly on the gravel area, just so they can get a snow plow or get a fire truck or get an ambulance down the street. And then once it gets done, then we can decide where you want the parking. We don't even have to decide that today if you want on the riverside or the other side. We don't have to decide it today. So, yes, I'm sorry, I've got Councillor Lococo, then Councillor Pietrangelo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Mr. Dren. I don't know the dimensions, but what if you put parking on the house side, but instead of the cars going parallel to the house, what if you angled them so you could get more cars? No? Okay.
Not enough room.
Thank you.
Through the mayor, no, angling it actually takes more room, so it eats up more of the asphalt. I think what the recommendation that we have in front of us is trying to, I guess, eliminate those situations where there's a car parked on the riverside and car parked on the house side, and vehicles can't get through. So the recommendation that we have in front of us is just saying restrict one side and allow parking on the other side until we can get it reconstructed.
And excuse me, because it's a very, very narrow street, we have pedestrians that walk down there, and there's no sidewalks on there. So by putting vehicles on one side of the road would also help any issues.
Councillor Pietrangelo.
Thanks, Your Worship. Clearly, there's two parts to this recommendation, and in my opinion, we should at least be moving forward with expanding the road, and then we can decide later on which side we want parking on. I think Council will do what the majority of people want, and it would be great to get the numbers back from staff, or even resubmit it to the neighbors and ask them which side do you want parking on? Do you want it on the river side, or do you want it on the housing side? And then I'm sure Council will do what the majority of people want. But I agree with staff in the sense that parking should be restricted only to one side. And I guess it comes down to what the neighbors want. But I still think we should move forward with at least allowing staff the opportunity to plan for the expansion of the road in 2021.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Yes, did you want to come up? Yeah, if you'd state your name and your address.
Hi, Your Worship, councillors. My name is Charles Aquilina. I live on 3892 Bridgewater Street. I also own the adjoining property next door, 3884 Bridgewater Street. Love it there.
There's money buried in the backyard.
Talk about tiny homes and affordable housing and micro-living. As I said to Mr. Thompson, having that affordable living in that house, that small place, was a humble home, and it has survived me. So, thank goodness to all those who are working towards affordable housing and even the considerations mentioned earlier. But I'll try to keep it on topic here and keep it brief. I'll save you guys a whole lot of money because, to be quite honest, we don't need an expansion on that road. We really don't. It's working fine. There's sufficient rooms for cars to pass, even with cars parked on the hard surface. I was out yesterday. I took the liberty, and sorry, I ran out of paper, but I have some photos here. I can pass them on each side. This is from standing at Dock Street, looking down, so that would be west down towards the dead end street. And there's a photo there, three photos. One is morning, the other one's noon, the other one's night. You can fire a cannon down that street. There's no cars parked either side. There's sufficient room. And in fact, I would argue that widening the road is going to be like opening up a pipeline for the bypass traffic, as Natalie has mentioned, cars that in the afternoon try to bypass the light and shoot down Bridgewater Street. That's a problem because they don't even stop at the stop sign on Dock Street. We've got dirt bikes that are out of control. There was a police chase on the street just last year or so, year and a half ago. These are safety issues. The dead end street, that is a safety issue. I worked 22 years in the fire service, and thank you for your service, Chief. I appreciate navigating a fire truck. Myself personally, I see no concerns on Bridgewater Street until you get down to the dead end. And that's a problem not only for emergency vehicles, but it's a problem for delivery vehicles, the garbage trucks, and any other delivery trucks that happen to come in. They've got to back out. There's no room to turn around. I do have a question, and I don't know if anybody here can answer, and that's if Dock Street, if there's a road allowance from Dock Street to continue straight through and left up to, I believe it's Greenwood, if there's a road allowance. I would suggest that that money would be better spent opening up that and doing away with the turnaround, and that would allow for more flow through. If we widen the road, wow, I can just imagine the people who bypass that light are usually impatient and in a rush. These are safety issues. We have in the first 4 houses, there's people with disabilities that have to walk out onto this area in target of these vehicles that are bypassing and coming down Bridgewater. City planning goes through quite an extent to manage streets, speed bumps, reduce speed. I'm suggesting we already have that in place on Bridgewater Street, just by virtue that one has to take a little more care. But it's not impossible, and it is the beauty of the area, the street, and what attracted me to the area in the first place. We have, as you can see in the pictures, there's sufficient room there for 2 vehicles to pass, and certainly, no, you cannot have parking on both sides, so you know what, get it straight. Parking on one side or the other, whatever side you're going to make it, put it on one side. You did a comprehensive report in May and came out with a report in May 2019. And from that came recommendations, parking on the riverside, all 4 wheels have to be on the hard surface, keep off the grass. Thank you very much. Please, we work hard to preserve that, and we're asking for council's help, please, to help us to maintain that and to retain this beauty that we have on Bridgewater Street. I mean, just what? We're going to take away more green space? We don't need it. Slow down anyways, on Bridgewater. We don't need to widen it. That money could be better spent. There's the, I've heard it referred to as the commercial end of the street, so from Dock Street up to Portage. That requires some work. Plow drivers are not even sure where the boulevard is, where cars are parked all over the place. There's improper signage. There's the boulevard's being chopped up, and grass here and there isn't there, and it's just like gravel all over the place and potholes. It's awful. That needs some work, and perhaps look at proper markage for parking so that it takes that confusion out. That and up to Dock Street to Main Street, that is in terrible shape. There's no houses, nobody's complaining about that, but that's in awful shape. You want to invest the money, invest it in that strip right there. And the residential area, you know what? Slow down coming through there. I'm telling you, my house is fairly close to the roads as it is. There's traffic that goes by there sometimes that if I got my window open, it startles me. It really does. And that'll be my next stop. It will be to the police department to put in writing to have that police monitored, or to have that area monitored for that stop sign. And the other thing is that that embutment area over there needs a cleanup. Put some money there. Get in there and clean it up. I pulled a guy out of the river just a year and a half ago. He didn't make it. I'm sorry. Sorry for the family. That is a trouble spot right there. Think about what we can do to improve that safety factor and to beautify and to preserve. We don't need to widen the roadway. We just need to be a little more orderly. You came out with a recommendation, and you know what? For the few days and a few weeks that it was in place, it was working. It was working. The problem is that once we let one car go off on the grass, the next one that comes, they see that, and that's what they do the same. And I am routinely going outside. I work hard to maintain. The green space in front of my place is very narrow, and for the first part from T-Bear to Dock Street, that green space is very narrow. And what happens if you're going to take all of that allowance and put it into asphalt, now you're pushing the foot traffic onto our properties because there's no sidewalks. Right now, that green space serves as a a footpath, because people are usually swimmers and they're walking barefoot and they're walking on the grass. You're going to take that away from them. For what? Event parking? Because it sounds to me that on occasion, when family comes, this is event parking. And really, we're looking now at over $300,000, plus what was spent in the study in the first place, and now this further study. By the time this is finished, I would challenge the numbers. It's going to be closer to $500,000, and have a look at those photos. Is that where we want to put $500,000? We don't really need it.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
I'm not finished. So I oppose widening the street. I do agree with that we need, parking on one side or the other. I would question if there's a road allowance to continue Bridgewater to Greenwood, and maybe that might be a consideration there. We need to slow traffic down, not speed it up. There's also a question on the report here where it talks about a petition signed by area residents. I would say that there should be a correction there. It should be a petition signed by selected area residents, because there was a number of us who, it's well known that this is our position, and we were not asked about that position. And I've had to rely on getting the information from alternate sources that, even though I've provided my email, I haven't received the information.
Well, let's just stop there. Mr. Dren, did we not petition the entire area?
Yes, questionnaires were delivered to the entire area from Dock Street all the way through to the end of the street.
And not everybody received.
They are hand-delivered.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, but that's not what's in this report.
So, the other question about the
Did you
report
not get this?
specifically.
Did you not get the survey?
I received a survey, but there's others who haven't that I'm aware of, and I provided them a copy. So the other question that I have, that when it comes to analysis and rationale, it says here Bridgewater Street is considered to be a low-volume road. It carries less than 400 vehicles per day, and the peak hour carries 40 cars. 40 cars, what's the measurement on that, on the 40 cars?
It's just describing what the peak hour is. It's 40 vehicles that are traveling down the road.
Okay, so did somebody actually count the vehicles? Because these are pretty round numbers, and I'm wondering if that 400, for example, if 0 to 400, if it falls under that category and you've applied that category, or if somebody actually counted the vehicles.
Well, vehicles are counted on the street. We have automatic traffic counters that go across the road.
Yeah.
And it actually counts the vehicles for a week, 2 weeks, depending on how long we leave the counters out there.
Okay, well, those seem like pretty round numbers. And also in the petition, it refers to residents from the street, residents outside the street, homeowners, and respondents. And that information seems to be kind of intertwined throughout the report, and even the percentages. And when I look at the fact just from Dock Street to T-Bear, out of the 10 houses, or rather the 10 properties that are there, 9 oppose the widening of the street. That comes out to 90%. So, I guess it depends, like when we combine whether it's residents from outside or inside, or like, it's just, I don't know. It doesn't seem to add up from myself as a homeowner, property owner, and living there, resident. And I didn't know that we can invite our friends to offer their opinions as well. So that's a concern, that how realistic this information is. And
Yep, Mr. Dren?
Just to let you know, we don't give it out to friends. We give it out to homeowners. If homeowners choose to not reply or reply, that's their choice. That's why we identify the stats in the report.
Right.
We identify those that were sent out. We identify those that have been received, and we base our recommendations on a majority of people that responded and said there was a problem with parking on the street.
Right.
So that's why this was put forward.
Right.
When you provided these pictures, I see a road that's in really bad shape.
Yeah, it's in bad shape, there's no doubt.
And it needs reconstruction, and that's why
Sure.
it's been identified as needing reconstruction. we're adding 2 meters to the side to deal with the safety aspects of emergency vehicles going through the area. So that's what's being recommended here. We're not
Sure.
recommending, you know, a widening that's 3 meters, 4 meters wide. We're basically making the road safe.
Right. Well, I'm suggesting that the safety factors are other than the widening of the road. Widening of the road without the curbs is not necessarily going to stop the parking on the green space issue either. And we don't have that green space allowance that it is further down the street. So that section of the street, we're very strongly opposed to widening of that section, that area. And if you want to refinish the road, absolutely. Let's keep the same footprint. And let's manage that. And let's slow down. There's a dead end there. We have people with disabilities. There's children who come to visit. There's foot traffic in the summertime, all of that. The city, in their planning, puts provisions in place to slow traffic down. We have it here. Why open it up? So, and event parking, this is a lot of money to spend on event parking. There's an individual on the street who has to pay for permit parking in order to park, and he does so. Yeah, the bypass traffic, sorry. I would say we don't have a parking problem per se on Bridgewater Street. We have a problem with people parking improperly. And we can manage in the footprint that is there to have vehicles parked on the hard surface, and there's still room to bypass. So what you see, there's absolutely no vehicles in those photos the full length of the street from Dock Street to the bottom end. So how important is it to widen that road and make it bigger? It'll be a bigger empty space. We can manage that. And, you know, again, to expand the road without a curb, it's not going to help. It's not going to help the parking issues people pull off. I will generally start by asking people if they're parked on the grass, if everything is okay. If I come to visit you at your home, I'm going to park on the road, not on the grass. The first thing I want to know if they've got a problem or an issue. And if not, then I will ask them to please remove their car from the grass and park it on the road. And when they do, there's no problem. There's still room to pass around. I have no concerns, and I'll be the first one to stand up and say, we have a safety issue if our fire trucks do not have access. I worked 22 years in the service. I'm familiar with that aspect, and I say we have a bigger problem with the dead end of the street and vehicles not being able to drive through and having to back out, including emergency vehicles. Thank you for your time. If there's any questions, yeah.
Any questions, Council? Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Nicola, are we proposing a curb on this as well?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, we're not proposing a curb. It'd be advisable to leave drainage to sheet flow towards the riverside.
Right, okay, thank you.
And sorry, just one more thing that was suggested that I don't really see in the report is that I've also mentioned that, you know, perhaps we can even consider a one lane, since it is partially one lane. If we consider one lane the full length, then there again, you know, we solve the problem in a different way. Maintaining the same footprint, keeping the cost down. You want to resurface it? By all means, looks like it could use a resurfacing, you're right. But what we're talking here about is maintaining the existing footprint and keeping the traffic off of the green space. The OPG gave their endorsement to enforce that. It was actually working, and then somehow that flip-flopped and changed. We invested all of that money to do that report, and now here we are doing it again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone else here that would like to address council? Yeah, come forward. If you just state your name and your address, please.
Mayor, Councilman, Randy Somerville. I live on Bridgewater for the last 20 years. I live in the west end, second house from the dead end. There's 7 houses from Sophia to the dead end. 5 are retired. Do you think we have a traffic problem there? 5 retired people. The two people that are complaining about the parking and put in their own parking lots are the 2 that are not retired. I don't think we have a parking problem. The street is probably one of the better streets in Niagara Falls. It doesn't have a pothole or nothing in it, so to rip it up and put a new street in, I can't see it. Parking on the house side, I think I don't want to look at cars parked in front of my house. I want to look at my river, my dock, my trees, my birds. You know, I enjoy that. I sit there all day long and really enjoy the view. I think the other end of the street, the business end, you go look at it, it's the worst street in Niagara Falls. It is terrible. Something has to be done there. If you widen some of the, like, you got to take that street in sections. The dead end section, there's no traffic, none. We have boat traffic, people coming by because they're looking for the boat ramp. That's the biggest problem. There's a turnaround there, and they have to turn around in the ladies' driveway. I don't know where the city come up with that turnaround. I've actually, about 10 or 15 years ago, I had somebody hit my truck, turning around in my driveway, hit my truck, because there's an improper turnaround there. At City Council, 5 or 6, 7 years, I went to engineering, and they were going to do, I was promised that that would be corrected. It hasn't been done yet. I've been to Sacred Heart School in 2016. We had a meeting about this street. We've had 2 or 3 surveys now. I can't see such a small problem creating such a big issue. It's just going on crazy here. Over what? I don't know, just fix it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes?
You got a summer goal for Trip
Yeah.
Your Worship, Council, sorry, me again, Adley Boyd. I have a recommendation. I do agree with the one-way street. It's already partially one-way. If it went one way all the way down the street, we might not have the problem that we're having. The other issue is, I don't know if anybody is familiar with, my home is on the corner of Laura Secord and Bridgewater. I have a 2-car garage with no driveway. So I don't have the luxury of parking in my driveway. I don't have one. It's across the city sidewalk. So if we're widening streets, can we possibly widen Laura Secord Place too? Because honestly, if we're widening for people to have room for their family members to come and park, we don't have room to come and park on Laura Secord Place either. There's no driveway at all. So I'm concerned about money being spent on widening a road. I'm concerned that where the money is needed is up in the business section where the money is being brought into the city of Chippewa. We all still consider it the city of Chippewa. Even though we enjoy being part of the city of Niagara Falls, but we're left behind a lot of the times. People forget about us in Chippewa. We're not first and foremost on any street repairs or anything like that. We have a huge homeless problem in Chippewa. The abutments in the downtown core in my backyard, literally in my backyard. I've come home to a homeless person with all their stuff there many of times. So there is a problem with our street. It does definitely need resurfaced, and parking is an issue. I don't see parking an issue from Dock Street down, where you guys are considering it. There is a huge parking issue from Portage down to Dock Street. And that's my comment. First of all, road bumps, you know, the speed bumps?
Speed bumps.
They have that on Weinbrenner, for goodness sakes. Weinbrenner, where there's no traffic. We have all the foot traffic, all the swimming traffic, all the business traffic. And I have cars, 4-wheelers, motorcycles, drive by my house, like you said, it startles you. They're going 70 or 80 kilometers an hour from the time they go over the bridge and in front of my house, which is literally steps away. It's a danger to all the swimmers. We have the most beautiful swimming hole of all of Niagara. It is cottage country up there, and there's tourists from all over that come swimming and walking down, people from all over the world, Germany, England. You talk to them, they have their noodles and floats, and there's this crazy traffic problem that come up the street, that comes storming up the street. And I can't believe that there hasn't been more issues than there has been.
No, things like that, that's a separate issue than what we're dealing with.
I
tonight.
understand,
If
but-
if the residents have an issue with speeding, they just have to let us know, and we can do a traffic study.
Yeah.
And we can deal with that, no problem.
I have-
And I do want to just address your first comment, though. We actually spend significant money in Chippewa, more per capita than anywhere else in the city. So that street, I agree, it needs some help, but to say that Chippewa doesn't get more than its fair share is inaccurate. So we just put 2 beautiful parks, we've been doing roads, fixing sewers, we put a new pumping station, like, we're doing a lot down there, spending millions and millions. But this area, we need to figure out what we're doing. So we've got some issues with safety, and now if we're talking one way, that's a whole different issue that's not addressed in this report. So I'm just gonna ask Mr. Dren, could you just at least address that issue of one way, you know, I know it's not even in this report, but since it was brought up, could you at least address that?
It's an issue that would have to go out to the residents, and we'd have to talk to them about it. There'd have to be a public meeting. We'd have to look at the impact of the side streets and so on associated with it. So it's not as simple as just saying, let's make it one way, because it impacts all the residents along the street. And we may have, 1 or 2 people that are saying that's the solution. We may have 20 people saying that's not the solution. So that's why, it's.
So we'd have to do surveys.
It's a study in itself, yes.
Okay.
So one other comment, this is my last comment. I've been a resident of Bridgewater for 17 years or so now. And so I'm, where there's a section, there's a fire hydrant right beside me and the vets. So it's literally on my property. They've cut out the fence around it. And when I first moved there, people were parking on both sides of the street. So when they were parking on the house side of the street, their tires were on the sidewalk. You couldn't get between the car and where the gate and my fence is all along the property. It was a huge issue because we don't have curbs. So that could be another consideration. For if they're gonna be parking on the house side, there should be a curb to keep them off the sidewalk or to keep them off the grass. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, I'm sorry, Councillor Pietrangelo.
Your worship, listening to everyone speak tonight, I don't know that we're actually going to solve it. So probably the best thing that we could do is send it back to staff. Staff can take into consideration some of the comments that we heard here tonight. Maybe they can bring some other options to the residents. It sounds like a lot of people don't want the street to be widened. We've also heard people come up with the idea of having it only one way. I'm not so sure that those options were put out to the residents before. But perhaps it's something that we need to look at more and try to do what the majority of people want.
Is there anyone else here that has not spoken that was wanting to speak on this issue? Okay, so we've got everybody, so we've got so are you withdrawing your original motion?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, hang on one sec, Councillor. So I've got Councillor Pietrangelo withdrawing his original motion and making a motion to refer this back to staff, second by Councillor Strange. Councillor Thompson.
Well, I was going to second the motion because I've had so much input and discussion, and I know the area so well that I was still uncertain what we want to do here. But I think we need a report back to the city to look after from Portage to the dock and redo that and finish off the parking there properly. That's the first one. The other one, a report back at the end of the Bridgewater. I remember there were 2 lots there that the Hydro owned and had it for sale. Somebody bought one of them and built a house on there, and it came to the city, and the city wanted $18,000 from the individual who were going to build there to put the road through properly. And I made the motion that we don't do that, that we provide access to their property, but we didn't go ahead and finish off the road. So I think we need a report back, not only up at the high end of Bridgewater, but also at the end to see if we can put the roadway through. We didn't do it because of the cost at the time, but it's a very unfriendly area for anybody with a car. You gotta pull in there and you gotta try to back up and back and turn around and get out. I think we have a responsibility to finish that off, and I'd like that in a report coming back, and then we can get some more input from the residents on what we're gonna do. If we're gonna just resurface it, or if that's what they want, and parking on one side, I think that's the way to go, from what I hear tonight. So I would second, oh no, you got a second of the
Yeah,
motion.
make that a
But,
friendly amendment, Councillor.
I would include the front part and also a report back at the end of the street to see if we can improve that and extend the street and up, okay?
Okay, so for everyone that's listening, I know it's we're all over the place here. So we've withdrawn the original motion, which was the recommendation. There's now been a motion made by Councillor Pietrangelo and second by Councillor Strange with input from Councillor Thompson, that we're now gonna look at the entire road from Portage all the way down to the end, and we're gonna look at all the issues that were talked about. Speeding issues, the roads in rough shape, drainage issues, and parking issues. So we're gonna look at all the issues, and we're gonna put it all back to staff, and then they're gonna bring us something back here, and then we're gonna have this friendly get-together one more time, and then hopefully we're gonna be able to come to some conclusion and try to deal with everything. So I thank you for all of your time. I'm sorry we couldn't resolve it today, but hopefully we're a step closer to resolving it. So thank you. Oh, let's call the vote. All those in favor? It's approved. All right, we're good. All right, thank you. Oh. Vic, you're gonna do this part here? Consolidated statements? Because I can go to the washroom anyway. I can go to the
All right, thanks, Mr. Mayor. We have report F 2020-03 dealing with the 2017 consolidated financial statements. I know we have guests here in the crowd. We have Mr. Palumbi. Mr. Palumbi, I'm not sure if you're here to actually make a presentation or if you're just here for amusement, or if you want to just wait and see if you can answer any questions for us.
Good evening, everybody. I can go through the statements in full if you want, but really I'm just here to answer questions if anybody has any questions with respect
Yeah,
to
I think
the
all the council
package.
was given a copy of the statement, so we've all had a chance to go through them. So I'm not sure if anyone has any questions for Mr. Palumbi. No? Okay. I appreciate you being here, though. Yeah, motion to receive and file? Yep. Okay, motion by Councillor Thompson to receive the reports. To receive and approve the reports, okay. Motion by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Dabrowski. If there's no other comments, then I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you very much. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you very much. Have a good night, everybody.
All right, next item is PBD 2020-07, and there's a report that's been added for council. And this deals with a few properties on Ferry Street, Allendale, and Stanley Avenue. I notice as well that we have representatives of the proponent in the crowd with us tonight. Not sure, was staff going to make a presentation on this, or were we just looking to pass the recommendation that's in front of us? Alex?
Yes, Your Acting Worship. The staff wasn't going to do a presentation. It's a fairly typical thing there. Some charts in the report, very minor modifications that are being asked for since the time that council dealt with us at the public meeting. But basically the buildings are about the same height, the same number of units, and staff's recommending that council pass the resolution tonight that they're minor, and then pass the resolution that would allow them to pass the bylaws tonight as well.
Okay. And I see that we do have a representative of the developer here in case there are any questions of council. What's council's wishes? I know there's a recommendation in the report. I have a motion to approve the recommendation by Councillor Carriel and a seconder by Councillor Campbell. If there isn't any other questions, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? The motion's carried. Next, we have the consent agenda. Are there any items in the consent agenda that anyone would like pulled? Councillor Campbell?
Yes, there was a request to withdraw the number 8 on the consent. I believe it's number 8 with respect to Legends.
Okay, yes, it's, that's on Weinbrenner Road? Is that the one?
It was the 2-year waiting period for minor
Yes,
variance.
yep, PBD 2020-01. So we'll take that one out.
Yes, 01.
PBD 2020-01. Move the balance, okay, I'd like to pull TS 2020-03. So those are the 2 reports that'll be coming out of the consent agenda. I have a motion to move the balance by Councillor Carriot. Oh, sorry.
Have a discussion on Sarah Street.
On Sarah Street, yep, okay. And that one is 2020-02, TS 2020-02. TS 2020-02. Okay, so those are the 3 reports that are pulled, and I have a motion to approve the balance made by Councillor Carriot. And do I have a seconder for that? I have a seconder to the motion to approve the balance of the consent agenda. Seconded by Councillor Lococo. I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Thank you. The motion's carried. So first item that was pulled is PB 2020.
Manson, and I think we all have received a copy of it with highlighted areas. And the first question was, I am writing to ask that you remove the above consent, which we have done. What I object to is what's missing in 2 sections of the text and on the 2 maps. And she clearly says, should Schedule 2, the center area between top and bottom provincially significant wetlands should be clearly marked to be preserved, part of EPA in same size font as PSWs. And then she goes on, instead is only shown as phase 3, which should be removed as misleading. Perhaps Mr. Hurlovich could.
Yeah, Mr. Hurlovich, I'm not sure if did you get a copy of Ms. Manson's letter as well?
Yes, I saw her letter.
Okay.
Yeah, this request doesn't change any of that. So those lands were designated, or zoned rather, environmental protection area a couple of years ago, almost
Correct.
2 years ago, as part of the larger rezoning. So we're only dealing with this townhouse block.
Right.
So, forgot the number of the block. So it only deals with that one block within the plan of subdivision, and those townhouse units there, approximately 22 townhouse units. It's not touching the balance of the lands. Poor labeling on behalf of the applicant's agent, and we should have caught that ourselves, but it's just, so phase 3 is only those 22 units and not any of the provincially significant wetland.
Correct.
I'm concerned that she's concerned that if this passes without that being passed tonight, then somebody's gonna come back in 2 years and say, well, look, we're given a 2-year phrase, and it doesn't say anything about PSWs on that map.
So I'll ask Mr. Hurlovich, but obviously that's not an official map.
No, it's an illustrative map, and they're not asking for 2 years of anything. They're asking that they apply to the Committee of Adjustment for a minor variance before 2 years are up on the zoning, which is going to occur by Ms. Manson's own letter saying within 2 months, they will be able to apply to the Committee of Adjustment without ever having to come to council.
Right. So in other words, just because a map has been drawn and doesn't show it, it doesn't mean that it's not there.
No, it's there. It's protected land.
So you would suggest that Ms. Manson has no concerns, no need to be concerned based on the letters that she sent to us?
Well, her own letter, her second paragraph, which is not highlighted, she says, I have no objection to the staff recommendation to grant an exemption to the 2-year waiting period. So, and then she goes on to say it's only 2 months away. So So she totally grasps the request. She is concerned that the map is mislabeled.
Yeah.
The map, I agree, the map is mislabeled, but it does not affect the zoning that's in place to protect the wetlands.
Correct.
If that's the case, I would pass this, but it be noted that Ms. Manson had some specific concern, and this letter be attached to that motion?
Okay. Is that your motion?
Yeah.
Okay. Do I have a seconder to that motion to move the staff recommendation and to include the correspondence from Ms. Manson? I have a seconder by Councillor Strange. I'll call the vote. All those in favor? It's passed. Thank you. I'll pass the chair back to the mayor now.
There's a couple other
So, Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry?
There was a couple other ones that were.
There is, and I'll let him deal with them.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Mayor, there's two other reports that have been pulled from the consent agenda. I wrote them down here for you.
Okay.
Councillor Thompson pulled the first one.
Okay.
Yes, 2020.
Councillor Thompson, you wanted to speak to TS 2020-02?
I'd like to have Mr. Dren comment on parking on Sarah Street. They've taken no parking on all the way up, and I had a couple of calls. People, how could you not permit, I think we got an emergency vehicle problem there again because of the boulevard in the center and not having, being wide enough. So I think that's a problem, but I'd like to hear from Mr. Dren. How do we take that entire area and have absolutely no parking?
Mr. Dren?
People are concerned about it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With respect to that, Councillor Thompson's absolutely right that it was a request that came through from the fire department with regards to safety issues. So they then spoke to us about it, and we went out and did the appropriate questionnaires and reviewed the area. So the area on Sarah Street where the houses are along the river, they have driveways that are capable of handling 10 or more vehicles. So that side of the road was not a concern. So we looked at the other side of the road, and again, larger driveways, not as large as the other side of the road. And we looked at the majority of houses in the area, and there were side streets that were adjacent, within a block away, that people, if they exceeded their driveway limit, people can park on the side streets that are within walking distance of those locations.
Restrictions there too.
No, they're one-side restrictions. They're not both-side restrictions.
Did you do a survey of the people on the street? Did you inform the people about this?
On Sarah Street, yes.
You did?
Yes.
And you didn't get any?
We had several concerns. Let me just pull up the report. There were some concerns, but basically the majority of people responded back, or the majority of the response was not negative, because I believe they understood the fact that they were looking at safety, a safety matter with regards to emergency vehicles being able to have safe passage through there. And so I'm just going to have a quick look at the report. Sorry.
Okay, as long as the people were notified and it's a serious concern with respect to emergency.
21 capital budget deliberations. I guess my question through you to Mr. Dren would be if transportation staff were able to find the money this year, would they be able to follow through on constructing what's in the report?
So in response to that, it's really a capital works project, and I'd have to refer that over to our director of finance.
Ah, okay. On finance or Mr. Nicol?
No, our director of finance too. So just to give you some history into why, I think when we did the open houses and we showed the slides, we anticipated that it could be approved this year. But what had occurred is the budget the capital budget was approved before this was completed, and therefore it didn't make it into the capital budget.
I understand. But I also think that there's always an opportunity for council to spend a few capital dollars, because I know that we do a reconciliation statement at the end of April with the OLG funds. I mean, our own city schedule runs from January 1st to December 31st, but the money that we receive from the OLG runs from May 1st to April 30th. So there's always a bit of overlap there. And generally in the past, we've always had a reconciliation statement, and we've looked at different projects that didn't actually make it into the capital budget. This being so minor in the sense that it's $30,000, I really don't see a problem if we're still going to do a reconciliation statement with just moving that this go forward this year and then just paying for it and when we reconcile the funds from the OLG.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, if that's the direction of council to do it this year, if you're suggesting that we commit OLG funding to it, we can certainly do that. I can also look and see if we have any reserves available to fund it just the same.
Okay.
So if that's your direction to do it this year, and the direction is for me to find the funding, no matter what source, that's fine. If you want to specifically designate OLG, that works too.
I would probably specifically designate OLG. That would be my motion, Your Worship. So I would just change recommendation number 4 to read the 2020 capital budget as opposed to the 2021. And then I guess I would follow up by asking Mr. Dren once again, if this motion goes through and the funds are approved, would transportation staff be able to ensure that the work gets done this year?
I'm gonna say yes.
All right.
Because
Okay.
the construction is through our municipal works department, so.
Okay.
I can't speak for Mr. Nickel. I think he would have to respond to
I think
that.
it will. So
Yes.
I'm going to make the motion, Your Worship, that it be the part of the 2020 budget paid for out of the OLG funds.
What if they find funds elsewhere? You don't want to? Okay. So, motion by Councillor Pietrangelo, second by Councillor Thompson, that you look for funds, and if failing that, we've got OLG funds, right, to get that done, and with the objective to have it done in 2020. All those in favor? Okay, that's approved. Okay, thank you. Yes?
I would have been happy to speak to the matter. I do live on Finland.
Perfect.
It's a little too late.
No.
Well, we already passed the motion.
No, and that's fine, that's wonderful, but there is certainly an issue on that street. And we'd certainly appreciate if the speed bumps did get put in 2020, would make a huge difference.
That was the motion that was unanimously passed, so it's, they moved the ball forward, yeah. Thank you. Okay, so we've already done the rest of
Power
it.
you have, you just had to sit there. You didn't have to talk.
That was painful enough, never mind. Okay, so we're on to resolutions now, and we've already done the one, right? We've done the one, didn't we, the homeless one? So, Mr. Mattson, so we've got, what do we got here?
Just 2 resolutions, both planning related.
Okay, so we've got 2 planning-related resolutions in regard to, one is regarding Weinbrenner Road, and the other one is Ferry Street and Allendale. So we're looking for a motion to move the resolutions. Someone gonna make that motion? Moved by Councillor Strange, seconded by Councillor Campbell. All those in favor? That's approved. Oh, yeah. Okay, communications. First up, communication from the city of Stratford, recommending that we just receive and file by staff. Okay, moved by Councillor Carrier, second by Councillor Pietrangelo. All those in favor? Thank you for that. 10.2, Niagara Ice Wine Festival, Niagara Grape and Wine Festival requesting the city declare the new ice wine event, the Snow Globe Soiree, taking place January 16th, as municipally significant. Moved by Councillor Strange, second by Councillor Pietrangelo. All those in favor? Of course, that allows them to get their liquor license. Now we're on to the bylaws.
Move that you give it a first, second, and third reading.
Motion by Councillor Pietrangelo, the bylaws be given a first, second, and third reading. Seconded by Councillor Strange. All those in favor? And that's approved. Thank you. New business.
Adjournment.
Anyone else, Your Worship?
Oh,
I got one. Oh, you got one? Okay, I'll let Councillor Strange go first.
okay. Councillor Strange, new business.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, just a quick one. I've been getting a couple, The new Woburn Bridge.
Yeah.
Been widening, looks great and everything. I just got a couple of calls from actually both sides, on the Niagara Lake side and the Niagara Falls side, because of the, and I don't know if there's gonna be a traffic study done or if there's being something going on right now. There was two 80-kilometer signs up there, and
One's laying on its side now, I noticed as of today.
Is it?
Yeah. The one on the.
that was me earlier.
Yeah. Yeah, it's too
But
fast.
if you drive down there and you drive, it's fine going over the bridge, but if you go over into Niagara Lake, over that hill, you're gonna be hitting there for sure. So, I don't know if Carl has any answers for us.
For the speed limit,
We know where Woburn, the new bridges, and it's 80 it's just,
Something we can look at.
yeah,
okay.
it's really fast.
And then maybe if we can pass it on to Niagara Lake too, because there's 80 kilometers down that way too.
Yeah, we'd have to work if recommendation comes forward, it'd have to be from both municipalities. Sorry. It would have to be from both municipalities, and we'd have to have consultation with them, right?
Okay, so motion by Councillor Strain, second by Councillor Carrio, that staff look at speed limit and roadway of Mewburn Road down by the Mewburn Bridge. All those in favor? That's
Beautiful
approved.
bridge.
Yeah, it's a beautiful bridge, yes. Councillor Campbell.
Yes, Your Worship, some time ago, a motion was made
Well, I guess,
to ask staff to compile a list of potential city-owned properties that could be made available that would encourage developers to create opportunities that could help the homeless in our community. Has that list been developed?
Mr. Mayor, we're working on it. We've got all of our GIS mapping done, and we'll have that report back to you soon.
Thank you.
yeah. Thank you for that. Councillor Thompson.
Yes, I had a couple of people ask me, and I thought about this on numerous occasions. In the historic year 2000, I recall Paisley January Pool was very enthusiastic about designating that year, and there was a lot of interest in that at that particular time. And she worked with a committee, and I recall being at the opening of the
Millennium Clock?
the clock there at 2000. And it was information for people, a clock. It was very interesting. And all of a sudden, everything quit and stopped. I thought that was very sad. The people really appreciated all city information that was on there all the time. And it is a historic site, and we spent a lot of money on doing that. And there's all kind of very pertinent information in there to read about the historic parts of the city. So anyway, I would like a report back to see what we could do to get that back to its original state, and see if we could honor all the effort and the work that was done previously with respect to that. And I think the community appreciated it. So I'd make a motion, we have a report back so we can make a decision and maybe get it back to its original state.
Like we got the LED thing, the clock isn't.
Everything's there.
Yeah. Did you want to say something about it?
If I may, and I believe we've already approved capital budget to replace the LED board there. And I think right now it's just staff and recreation working through with the providers to try to figure out what the best solution is. But I'm pretty sure in 2018 capital budget, we already approved funds for that, for the Millennium Clock.
I think it was about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I think it was 60,000 to get it back working, because I brought this up a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
No, he was trying to get it torn down.
So we'd be happy to report
Busy
back, but
stuff.
I believe we do have the capital money already
Let's have a
approved, so,
report
yeah.
and let's
Yeah.
make a motion to do that.
An update, eh? We can get an update. Get we update for the next meeting on the clock?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Well, not just the clock, the reading
Yeah.
board, the clock, the whole.
Second.
Yeah.
Why do you want to tear it down?
So, yes, Ms. Clark?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. It was in 2019 we approved, it was called Pylon Sign Project, McBain Community Center and Millennium Clock, technical upgrade and installation for 2 pylon signs. It was 20,000 for McBain and 30,000 for the Millennium Clock. So I suspect our, 30, yes.
It's 2 sides, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the LED.
Put it back to its original state.
Well, Mr. Mayor, if I may, I think the idea with the 30,000, and that's why it hasn't been done yet, they're trying to get the idea of whether that should be an LED board rather than the old electronic kind of.
The red one?
Red lettering. This was going to be more of a electronic, more video capability kind of board. But we can report back.
Yeah, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Pietrangelo, how many,
Yeah, thanks,
how many
Your
pieces?
Worship.
of-
It depends. I know you guys want to get out of here.
No, you can stay.
I can stay? All right,
Yeah.
okay. Coldest night of the year is coming up, Your Worship. I think it's February 22nd. In support of Project Share. City always puts a team in. So I don't know if you need a motion to that effect, but if so, I'd be happy to make one. Usually it coincides with.
Yeah, another event.
Yeah, I think it's the, is it the Women's Place Bowling? Or
I think
maybe
so.
the Big Brothers, Big Sisters?
Yeah, there's usually bowl for kids' sake.
There's- Yeah, there's something that goes on that night that I know council is generally split between one and the other. I'm happy to go walk again. I know Councillor Lococo, I would imagine, is going to be there. Perhaps Councillor Ioannoni as well. I don't know, Councillor Campbell, I know has shown up in the past. But if you need a motion to
Well, why
that
don't you
effect,
make
that
it?
we, okay, all right. I'll make a, you showed up? Oh, yeah, you did, actually, yeah, yeah. All right, yeah, sure, I'll make a motion that the city put a team in once again, Your Worship.
22nd, did you say, February 22nd?
I think it's February 22nd.
Moved by Councillor Pietrangelo, second by Councillor Carrió, that we put a team in to sponsor coldest night of the year, February 22nd. All those in favor? That's approved. Yes, you have some more?
Yeah, I do, Your Worship. I know I brought it up last time, like, I can't
Fully
remember
functional?
where we left it because there wasn't anything in the minutes, whether or not staff was gonna bring something back to us, but I wanted some information on partial occupancy. And I guess what it entails in the city of Niagara Falls zoning. I just wonder what the criteria are, and I go back to the building that was approved. I guess it would be south of McLeod Road.
Thundering Waters?
Yeah,
Yeah,
in
the
that
condo?
area there. Yeah, in that area there, there's a condo building that was approved, and I know I've heard from a number of people who own places in there that none of the amenities are finished. While they may be receiving partial taxes, there's a lot of other, I guess, items that aren't done, including security systems.
The pool's
You
not
know,
done.
after midnight, they can't even access the property. The parking garage, just things like that. And I don't want to kind of get into the weeds on you know, one specific property. I kind of wanted to take a look at what partial occupancy is and whether or not we have any control over whether we give the right to a developer to allow partial occupancy or whether we don't. So I guess I just want to know what the criteria are that we evaluate before we say to a developer, yeah, you can have partial occupancy or you can have that status so that you can pass it on. I don't really want to talk about that specific
Yeah, okay.
one, so.
Okay, so they're doing the report, it's just not ready
Okay.
yet?
Yep, and I
So-
just didn't see that in the minutes, that's all. I know I brought it up last time, but I didn't see it in the minutes. So, and the last one I wanted to ask about, Your Worship, is I know we got a couple emails about the water treatment plant in Chippewa, and I believe the region is looking at making some changes to it. There's quite a big, I believe it's an upgrade coming to it. They were asking for some feedback from residents, and some residents have already sent all of council what their feedback is. And I guess I feel somewhat lost because when they're asking us questions, we don't know anything about the project. So, but in one of their responses, it says that City of Niagara Falls was going to give its position. So I wonder if that's council that gives their position, or if it's staff that gives their position. And are we part of that? Like, can I expect to see that coming at some point so that I can at least have the information that I can respond?
Why don't we get you an answer, Mr. Nicol?
All right. Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. So this environmental assessment was started by the region about 5 or 6 years ago. And it was precipitated by the future power canal works. The current situation is that the intake for the drinking water plant is in the mouth of the Welland River, which is part of the intake to the canal. So the future upcoming works would involve a closure of that part of the canal, which means there'd be a reversal of flow. In short terms, that means that the intake that exists today wouldn't be suitable for longer term conditions. So fast forward to where we are today, the region is in the process of updating that environmental assessment process, and some of the terms and conditions that OPG have laid out have required some changes to the plan. So this is a very much 100% a regionally led project because it's a regional treatment plan, it's in their jurisdiction. And so they've undertaken a study to review a subset of alternatives to what was preferred about 6 years ago. And the conclusion from that study is that they would like to extend their intake further to the south, closer to Riverview Riverside Park near Sarah Street. Apologize, I can't think off the top of my head which park that is per se. So as a result of that, they've filed this environmental assessment report with the city as a local municipality for review by the public, and the public has the ability to comment on it. The city has made, staff in my department have made some comments specifically that we feel that the intake is important to be supported because it is the clean drinking water for the whole of the city. However, we'd want to make sure that the location is carefully considered because there's impacts to our park, there's impacts to the residents, etc. So we haven't provided a yes or no. It's not our ability to provide a yes or no for this project to continue, but we've said if you're going to do it, you really need to consider a number of these items moving forward. So now the residents have provided some further information to the region, and that's the correct process laid out in the Environmental Assessment Act. Provide the feedback to the region so the region can consider it and make a final decision. Residents also have the ability to appeal it to the Minister of Environment, Conservation, Parks, and that process is laid out in the Environmental Assessment Act. So what I believe has happened is the residents and their agents have sent council this information so you can be aware, but I don't believe there's any specific action the city can take unless you want to direct a motion for us to draft an appeal to the province. So this is right now a process that the residents are taking the opportunity to appeal the regions or provide comments, maybe not necessarily appeal, but provide comments back to the region on the preferred alternative in their plan. So I'd be happy to answer any more questions. I hope I've laid that out.
Well, thanks, Your Worship. That's some good information, and I have no interest in I guess putting in an appeal to the province. However, I would be happy if we as a municipality did submit comments to the EA, just to receive a copy of those comments, and then at least I can be informed. So
We can get a copy of that?
Yeah, I'd be happy to circulate our comments.
Great. Okay, thank you. I'm done.
Any other new business? Motion for adjournment. Councillor Dabrowski, second by Councillor Campbell. All those in favor? And we're done. Thank you.